очевидными фаворитами в твоей группе, вы просто их разгромили без шансов. Какие у тебя сейчас ощущения и эмоции от этого?
Я думаю, что нам просто повезло. Ну, а так в целом нам без разницы, против кого играть, главное выкладываться на максимум.
Well, I think it was just lucky. So, but overall, I think it's just important to play our game at our top, and then it will be all good.
All right, now looking ahead, you guys pulled out, once again, some very interesting picks. You pulled out a Heimerdinger bottom, you had a Tristana in the mid lane, you're bringing back Nico in the top, a pick we haven't seen as much. Talk to me a little bit about the strategy that you used to win this game.
У вас было очень много необычных пиков. Опять же, Хеймердингер на боте, Тристана на миде, и вернули вы в мету в пике Ника на топе. Какая вообще была стратегия, какие вообще конкретно были у вас идеи перед этим матчем? Какая была подготовка?
Вопрос очень сложный.
The question is very complicated.
Totally fair. All right, then how about this? Let's change the script. Talk to me a little bit about your role in the early game against a team like Clutch Gaming. Where are you focusing? Who are you looking to shut down? Is it all eyes on Huni, or are you looking somewhere else?
Расскажи про свою роль в ранней игре. Твоя цель была только за шатдаун и Хуни, поиграть только через топ-лейн, либо ты вообще должен был делать другие вещи? Просто так получилось, что ты играл через топ.
В целом я играю от себя, а там как пойдет. Я просто пытался выключить вражеского лесника. Линии у меня соло выигрывали 1 на 1. Линии просто были сильнее. И мне нужно было просто сделать так, чтобы вражеский лесник не заходил на ганги и не флипал матчапы.
Overall, I just play for myself, but in this game, I just try to shut down the enemy jungler. My laners were stronger, so it was just important not to let the enemy jungler to change the situation.
Now, when we look back at this game, you obviously had a fantastic game. The team did as a whole. You said it was just a little bit lucky. I'm curious if you're ready to say that Unicorns of Love are the favorites to make it out first seed in your group.
Вопреки тому, что ты сказал, что вам просто повезло, готов ли ты сейчас сказать, что Unicorns of Love фаворит в этой группе, чтобы выйти с первого места?
Нет.
No, I'm not.
All right, not yet. We'll have to see later in the day if you're willing to be a bit more confident about where you're going to finish out in the group. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Ananasic. We're going to toss to a quick break. When we return, it'll be Splice versus Detonation Focus Me in our second game of the day.
Lyra again trying to gank, knowing the ult's down.
Boss uses the shape splitter. Huni trying to get the damage down, but Boss flashes away. Lyra with the first blood, and Anasik going in. Void Seeker chases him down. Now we see Huni going in once again. The parallel convergence isn't going to land onto Boss, but the jump comes forward. Look at the damage from Boss. The tower. Videl tries to take it. Cody-san pulls it down the storm to try and get away, but Vulcan's already down. And look at the damage on the Cody-san. No Manch just deletes him. The rest of Clutch are falling in the pit. There's nowhere for Lyra to go. It's a double for the Unicorns. Edward oversteps, Black Shield comes down, Huni can jump all the way onto the back line. He's going in! Hollow! He's going to take down Edward! Huni on towards the back line, almost jumped out. Demonte's all the way on the back of this fight, but it's too little too late. They jump in, Inax takes down one answered on the side of Clutch as the damage comes down. Clutch Gaming trying to hold on to some semblance of the game, but the Nexus Towers are the target, and Unicorns will start Worlds off with a bang as they take down Clutch Gaming. And welcome back to our studio in Berlin. It's been a long road for Splice, but today they make their long-awaited return to Worlds, this time on home soil.
Yeah, last time we saw them was 2016, where Kabe is now the last remaining member of that team, and we just saw it upset.
We did.
So if they didn't think anything was possible, now they do.
Well, I hope they did think anything was possible.
I do too.
After seeing how many times we've had upsets at Worlds. But as you say, last time we saw him was 2016. Chachi has been in the European Gauntlet 5 times, and this is the first time he's ever made it to Worlds. 3 times came second, 1 time came third. There are a lot of players on this team that have been vying to get towards Worlds and haven't quite made it. And then you have new players like Humanoid and Oskaren who are on their first real appearance on an international stage.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things I saw was Chachi in terms of EULCS or LEC games played. Anyone who had more games than him had been to Worlds already. So it's been a long-awaited and I think well-deserved trip to Worlds for Chachi.
It's 1,696 days from his first ever LEC appearance to him actually making it to the World stage, which is just incredible. 336 games, I think it was, before he made it. I mean, I've only played 1 game on an international stage, and I haven't played any LEC games.
Was that the Rift Rivals
Rift
game?
Rivals.
And you haven't won yet either.
Exactly. 0% win rate, but still more games than Chachi.
Yeah, it's very true.
But yeah, Splice have always been sort of the third place team in Europe, especially this year. Spring and summer, they looked like they were challenging maybe a couple of times to get into that top 2, but then G2 and Fnatic really kind of rolled away from them, and Splice kind of regressed a little bit at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think the question that's going to be on a lot of fans' minds is, like, how is Splice's playstyle going to translate to the international stage? Because they are much slower than a G2 or a Fnatic, and that ends up getting exploited against G2 and Fnatic. I actually think it will probably be fine on the international stage. I think Splice plays slow in terms of kills, but if you look at their early game, they're still like the 3rd best early game team in Europe because they're able to pressure lanes, they're able to pressure objectives, and still amass a bit of a gold lead themselves if they want to improve that.
They definitely do, but I mean, for the 8-time LJL champions, for the back-to-back champions, this is kind of the next stepping stone for them. As you say, they've kind of stepped 1 step better every time they've come to an international competition after 2018 Worlds to 2019 MSI. And now the question is, can they make it past knockouts and actually challenge towards a group stage spot?
Yeah, and one player that I really like paying attention to is Evie, their top laner. I think he is actually a world-class top laner, so he's one of the big reasons they win. He ends up dominating the laning phase in the game, and that's without jungle proximity, so he ends up giving a lot of freedom to the rest of his team to get played around frequently.
Evie, a great player for Dead Nation Focus Me, and this is his signature pick. Now, of course, Tahm Kench was nerfed on 919, but if we see him bring out his Tahm Kench, I'm going to be so excited.
He's willing to do anything. I don't think we're going to see Tahm Kench. The version of Tahm Kench that exists now is so much weaker than the version of Tahm Kench that was a high win rate top lane pick, but he does know how to push his own advantage and make a lot of big plays.
He really does. And then there's, of course, a few other well-known faces on this team. We saw Seros, a well-known Heimerdinger player in the mid lane for them. Utapon, who's been on DFM since 2013, has been to MSI 2019. A lot of international wildcard competitions as well. But as you say, Evie, without much jungle pressure, without his team playing around him, tends to be the dominant force on this lineup.
Highest damage percentage in the league, highest CSD at 15. All by his lonesome for the most part, for, 92.3% of the time.
I mean, Chachi tends to get left alone in top lane as well.
Yeah.
Xerxes doesn't usually focus around that top lane, so maybe we'll just see that pure 1v1 matchup. Maybe we'll even see Chachi going back to some tanks, which he started to play a little bit in solo queue. So we'll see exactly how that matchup goes down top.
Yeah, still want to see how the meta shakes out. I mean, we just got to see Nico
Who
versus,
knows?
I mean, are we going to see more Heimerdinger? At this point, actually, I think it's not too surprising to see Heimerdinger ban from Seros because it's one of his signature picks.
And definitely is. Well, we're going to welcome the combatants onto stage, and for that, I need to actually change microphones. To welcome the combatants onto stage, representing the LJL, it's Dead Nation Focus Me. And their opponents, who are returning to the world stage from the League of Legends European Championship, it's Splice! One more time. Give it up for Detonation, Focus Me, and Splice. And as the players take their seats, I do want to come back a little bit to that meta point you were saying. We're not 100% sure how things are going to shape up. If you were to pick a perfect meta for these two teams, they're known for being slower. What would you be looking at as some of those power points?
Right. So if I'm thinking about Splice, they still obviously want to go with things like Kai'Sa and Xayah. Those champions have been nerfed, but they haven't necessarily been nerfed to a point where they're completely absent from the meta. I don't think it will be too hard to get those priority picks either. Aside from that, there's looking at the champions that Splice typically succeeds on, most of them are safe, and I don't necessarily see new picks revolving in the meta that will easily supplant those things. So I still think Chachi, if Gangplank is available, should go for Gangplank. So I think, for the most part, they can transition a lot of their mid-season success into world success.
I think a big problem for Splice was their sort of end-of-season regression. After they lost to Fnatic, they then started struggling on some of the picks that would have been more conventional for them. And when we talked to them, they were saying, well, we really only have 2 or 3 picks in every role that really works for us. So we needed to try and find new things, which is why I was asking coming into 9-19 whether they would. But I think I really agree with you that stick to what you know. Like, hopefully they can't ban out every pick that you're good at in only 5 bans.
Yeah, like maybe to pull an example from the last game, if there was like a signature pick that
like
you're really good at, like let's just say Kiana, and you're blue side and it's a first pickable champion, you may not want to ban it. That would be a suggestion, maybe, but we'll see. So if they might not want to ban Gangplank if they like picking Gangplank.
They definitely might not want to. Detonation Focus Me on the other side tend to be
it's going to be a challenge for them going up against Kabe and Norscarin, because even though Kabe and Norscarin aren't necessarily lane dominant players, they end up pulling out a lot of damage in the later game team fights in terms of setup, in terms of really just doing what the LGL used to do if they're drawing the game out late and winning the game. So I think they do that a lot better than DFM.
We'll see if that is the case. So far, we've already seen a Seed 2 upset a Seed 1 as Unicorns of Love took down Clutch Gaming in Game 1. This, I think, we both agree would be a slightly larger upset, with Detonation Focus Me being a Seed 3 team coming into the playing stages.
Yeah, me and some of the other casters were talking on the shuttle here this morning, and we're thinking, okay, Game 1, Clutch versus UOL, put that at like 65-35.
Yeah.
This one feels a little bit closer to 80-20. We've seen so much history between these teams or these regions. However, you still have to play the games. Like we still haven't played the tournament yet. Anything actually can happen in terms of pulling out a pick that they absolutely have shown no practice on. Like, who's going to be the first one to pull out Mordekaiser? And you're not going to really realize how to play against it because he's been mostly a fringe pick for most regions, but has a lot of power. Is a team going to let Pantheon through the pick and ban phase and then not know how to deal with it? We're going to have to see if those things happen.
And whether a team has some of those pocket picks that we talk about. Like we mentioned Soas' Heimerdinger. He's also played things like AP Shyvana in the mid lane. Could something like that just upset the apple cart and you just don't have the time to react to it? You haven't scrimmed against it. You're not sure exactly how to play against a champion like that. The Tahm Kench top, although we probably won't see it, it's still something that could really surprise Chachi and really upset Splice's game plan of playing towards later game fights because they can move around the map a lot more.
Yeah, and also knowing when to drop or stop fearing a pick. So Yuumi is a champion that has basically lived in the bans. So a lot of teams don't actually prioritize Yuumi practice in most situations, yet it's been nerfed yet again. Now the Q only has a 20% slow, so is it still the same tier of melee enabler? Because to me, like, if there was a path for DFM to win this game, it would be Splice lets Yuumi through, Yuumi doesn't dominate lane, but then Yuumi hops in to Evi in the top lane and lets him carry, because Yumi's one of the greatest enablers in that way for solo lane carries. And the question is, do you even let that happen? Because maybe you need the ban for something else. That means Heimerdinger can go through, and just a lot of different variables that these teams aren't able to account for.
It's all these extra layers, especially with having so many patches between, like, Splice last played on 9.16, now we're on 9.19. The Aatrox bans, I think most people unanimously say Aatrox is out of the meta now, you can't play him, but is Sylas still a possibility? Yes, maybe not in the jungle, but mid lane, I've heard rumors of him still being played. As you say, is Yuumi still a permaban? Is Akali still a permaban? Do you need to get her out? Do you have to pick her? We're going to jump on into picks and bans. Kiana removed their humanoid, was one of the first LEC mid laners who used that one to great effect. There's the Gangplank ban against Chachi as well, and of course the Heimerdinger ban from Splice.
Yep, so targeted on one of them, and then I'd say the GP is also, as you mentioned, a targeted ban, and then we're just starting to go with kind of power pick bans in the Kiana and the Pantheon. I like how quick they are going, though, showing good prep.
Yep, very aware of where they want to go. Syndra is the final ban.
Man, are we going to keep seeing bot lane Syndra bans?
I think so. I think we'll just see Syndra bans because she can be flexed. I agree that she's mostly played in bot lane now, but I just think you have to get her out of the draft pool if you don't want to pick her up early on. The Gnar locked in for Evie, his most played this split. Kennen and Xayah straight away on the side of Splice.
Yeah, I mean, if Splice is going to spend the time to scout and ban Saros' Heimerdinger, letting the Gnar through is actually a big no-no against Detonation Focus Me. 11-0 in the regular season, summer split, and playoffs for Evie on that champion.
It is one of Chachi's most played as well, so maybe he thinks he understands the champion well enough just to lock down Evie. There's the Thresh, there's the Echo jungle. Does mean the Rakan goes over to Splice if they want it to team up in that Lovers duo bot lane.
Would they pull out the Zyra with Rakan open? It was on Vedius's picks to watch, but maybe they watched that, they considered it, and they said, wait a minute, we can still get this duo.
But there were like dissenting opinions about that, because the Freak show, where Freak talks about the patch, he was like, I don't really think we'll see these mages in the bottom lane. So there's a little bit of disagreement amongst some of our analysts as to whether that Zyra will be picked. The Rakan is locked in the end. I think it makes the most sense for Norskeren. He's pretty comfortable on that champion. Would like him to be on something tankier, having seen him make a few mistakes in the LEC. But the Rakan works well in the laning phase down towards that bottom lane. Now into the second ban phase. Cassiopeia removed, Elise taken away by Detonation Focus Me. The Kai'Sa taken away. We'll see where DFM go for their final ban.
Yeah, both the Cassiopeia and the Syndra could be considered bot lane mage picks. Maybe they're working on some new intel about Utapon, but he hasn't actually played mages in the bottom lane in the summer split, even though that's part of a heavy part of Splice's bot focus.
I mean, looking at a lot of the sort of strong picks we saw in 9-16, things like the Gragas, the Sylas, Sejuani, all of those have kind of fallen out of the meta in terms of jungle, and I'm wondering where now Splice will go, because the Elise and the Olaf were banned, which are two strong picks for Xerxes, but he was very well known for his Hecarim originally.
Clearly the Hecarim, that's absolutely what you should go with. I'm hoping to continue to be surprised by these picks.
It
is something he has experience with. It is also not something he has played in the summer split, so another one of those new-ish picks being thrown back into his roster.
I was actually recently watching a lot of the best plays from Worlds in 2018, and I forgot how dominant Licorice was on his Hecarim top.
Right.
Like, the fact that it was banned out against him so often. It's not going to be top lane here, but I just thought it was a nice cool callback. We haven't seen too much Hecarim this year for it to come back around at the World stage. Now, Lucian locked in for Detonation Focus Me, and Nocturne on the side of Steel.
So they're flexing Echo, probably.
Yes.
Unless they really wanted to go spicy.
Okay, so I know the LGL likes the fact that Vedius always praises Japan. If they play Nocturne mid in their first game on the world stage in 2019, I'm going to be so sad.
It's very likely a Nocturne jungle. It is something Steel played during the summer split, and it will be a nice combo with a flank champion like Echo, or if Gnar wants to end up getting flanks in the later game team fights.
Yeah, that combo and the skirmish potential coming out from Detonation Focus Me will be devastating. It's Nocturne mid! It's Nocturne mid!
They have 2 seconds to swap
back. Get Vedius on here!
They're doing it!
Nocturne mid!
That's how you do it, DFM.
Can we just get a camera on Zeros? Can we get a camera on Zeros to make sure it's not another Vedius sort of Marvel Cinematic Universe thing going on?
I mean, he looks pretty calm. He is meticulous about his setup. He's the guy who notoriously comes out with tape measures, make sure everything is just as it should be. because you need to cue the wave as Nocturne mid.
Yep.
Got to be exactly
Gotta
the
aim
right
it
angle down the
perfectly.
middle of the lane. Otherwise, you might miss it left or right.
Okay, so we're going to learn about this
Nocturne
as we go along, I feel, chat. The Nocturne mid into the rise. A lot of roam potential from the side of Detonation Focus Me. You can get into those skirmishes, as you said, with the Paranoia.
Yeah.
Echo has a lot of mobility as well. But then you have things like the Realm Warp, you have the Onslaught of Shadows, you have Cannon coming in from the... Like, both these teams actually have great flanking skirmish fights if they can find them up.
They absolutely do, and that team fight will come in faster from the Nocturne mid because of his ability to impact side lanes. And oh man, it's also up against the slightly reworked Rise in the fact that he has a weaker early game shove than previously and then has AoE later. So I actually don't think Humanoid will be able to punish this Nocturne, which could be why they've decided to flex the Nocturne into the spot, because I think Saros will actually farm up fairly safely for most of this laning phase. Additionally, the way Rise needs to get his root is he needs to prime it with Spell Flux. He has to cast E on you and then cast W on you. If you have your spell shield,
you could dodge one of
he's
them
just
at least.
never going to root you if you're saving it.
Yep, Seros with the next level drafting strategy in towards that mid lane. He's running lethal tempo as you'd expect on a skirmish heavy Nocturne, and then the ignite.
Vedius
in
has a
lane.
guide about mid lane Nocturne. I mean, everyone watches on their PC. Go on the second tab, type in Vedius mid Nocturne guide. There's probably like 7 of them. He's probably made it multiple
The
times.
picture
just
is
'cause he
something of
enjoys it.
nightmares with his face on Nocturne's face.
Oh my goodness.
Not something I want to look at. But let's have a look away from the mid lane. Echo jungle into Hecarim jungle. Not a matchup we see too commonly. We knew Echo jungle would make a resurgence on 9/19, but Hecarim, not something I expected, I'll be honest.
Yeah, not too common. He's gone with the Ghost as well, and Conqueror, which is actually very strong on Hecarim. When the new Conqueror rune was kind of first introduced, you saw a lot of Hecarim top. I know, especially in North American solo queue, it showed a huge amount of power. It's not that strong early, so if we wanted to see Steel come in with some early ganks, that is a potential. Looking actually more towards that bot lane with the Thresh gank assist, but... Okay, Saros is just going for ward. For a second, I thought he was going to try and steal Raptors. But no, just a normal jungle clear for both the Hecarim and the Echo.
It's just such a change for Seros as well, known mostly for his sort of utility mages, his ability to help out teams, zone control in team fights. For him to be playing an aggressive champion that really needs to snowball early on is not what I was expecting. That used to be Ramune's role in the team.
Yeah. When you talk about utility, what if you made the entire enemy team blind for
true.
6 seconds?
That is true.
It's got everything. How else would Vedius make it to Diamond?
Hey.
Okay, that was my last one.
I
I'm sorry.
agree with you, but at
okay.
some point I got to defend my homeboy, you know, Jet?
He'd be master with anything else, clearly.
Okay, let's have a look at how some of these lanes are going. A slight CS lead for Chachi in the top lane, but the wave is pushing in towards Evie. It's ranged into range, which is not a matchup you too commonly see in the top lane, so expect that to be pretty even. Evie has gone for the shield as opposed to the Dawn's Blade from Chachi.
Yeah, I mean, we did speak about, even though Evie is 11-0 on the Gnar, it's Vizichachi's second most played, so he should on the matchup. And I think Kennen, if you talk to a lot of top laners, this matchup is Kennen favored, even if Gnar can possibly have good games. So Vizichachi able to shove in Evie in the early game. Expect that to happen a fair bit, and we'll see if he can press his advantage.
Let's see if that's the case. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, both AD carries or bot laners have gone for heal over to teleport. So more of a combat summoner-focused lane. And that's a little bit surprising. I expect Kobe to go towards the teleport and just be able to push out the lane, come back, but I guess into something that can be as aggressive as a Thresh solution.
Yeah, I do wonder what the trend is going to be, because we saw through so much of the summer split across regions that teleports seemed to be the go-to, and it was weird if you went with heal. I wonder if it's something about like first week of play and not wanting to get all in. Speaking of which, this is really good gank timing from Xerxes.
Hook onto no scaring though, he's almost dead. Heals up with the Guardian gang, gonna take a lot of damage here. Doesn't have the flash, he's down. Burst blood to Splice.
Oh, such a good bait by Splice, and really just the timing to go in right there, right as the hook lands. So DFM thought they're making a good play. It absolutely would have been in the 2v2, but bot lane is definitely not a 2v2 lane when you consider these things.
If DFM have done their research as well, they know Norscaring can sometimes push too far like this. So.
Yeah. Also, the wave was just about to push away from DFM, so they were going to be a little bit unsafe after they cleared that. Great start for Splice.
But the expectation is for DFM, although they've lost out a little bit down there. With Xerxes getting the kill, it doesn't affect the lane too much. There's still only flashes available for Kobe and Norsco, and Utapon has his. When we get towards level 6 here for DFM, though, that's where they can really start to make plays. Evie going to try and jump away. The stun, almost going to connect it from Chachi. Flashes forward, there's the stun, and Evie locked up underneath this tower. Xerxes will cull him. Another kill across the Splice.
I'm really surprised Evie didn't get the double hop off of Chachi when he was trying to avoid that gank, but that is just another quality pre-6 gank from the Hecarim. Whenever that happens on Conqueror Hecarim, you can really snowball hard on this pick. Getting your warrior early, especially if he decides to go towards something like Trinity Force, incredibly powerful. So amazing start for Xerxes.
And I think you're seeing a demonstration of what we talked about before pick and ban, with Splice actually being a very strong early game team, just not as strong as G2 and Fnatic. They tend to take their games to later on, but here you can see Xerxes is very good at reading the map and knowing when he can gank and where he can gank, and Splice are actually very good at getting these early game leads.
Yeah, and sometimes the criticism isn't that they can't get an early game lead, it's that they don't explode the lead before 20 minutes. So will they hold this lead at 1,500, or will they make it 3, 4.5, 6 and really close out the game early? Or Nocturne is level 6 right now, and he's sitting in a brush. You never know where he's going to go.
See, at the moment, DFM have vision control down towards the bottom side jungle. You can see Splice's blue buff is actually littered up with wards right now. Chachi trading here onto Evie, who's forced to hop away, and we talked about how little jungle attention he gets. We haven't seen Steel up here at all this game, but Evie is not as dominant in lane as he was against some of his LJL counterparts.
They might be trying to get the kill onto Hecarim here.
Parallel convergence.
He might be able to solo kill him, actually.
I think he just gets him. The smite
Good
comes
smite.
down. One more auto should be enough. Xerxes just about able to survive, and here comes the paranoia! And Seos jumps underneath the tower. The damage coming back from him. Splice is not enough. The hook's still going to land onto Norsco, who has to flash away. Here's Humanoid from the backside of the fight. Seos rooted up, locked down, and the kill comes in for Kobe. Utapon unable to join his team, and Humanoid can still chase. Realm warp forward. Splice going to take it. 2 members strong. The play from Gang trying to push him away, and here comes Utapon, but the knockup's not quite going to connect. Gang goes down. Humanoid still chasing. Utapon flashing forward. The damage from Splice is huge here, and Utapon has to run away. Kobe landing the feathers one after one after one, and the blade caller rips them back through Utapon.
Such slim margins deciding that fight. The smallest of details can sometimes have the largest of effects, and the start of this fight was actually the smite onto Grump. If Xerxes doesn't put this smite off, he dies before he retreats to the turret, which means none of these following events happen. You don't see the Nocturne ult into the turret and flash out. You don't see Utapon actually stuck behind the turret on Lucian off on the bottom right of your screen, unable to follow through. And you don't see Humanoid following through to pick up these kills. And then the continual opting in of the fight by Splice to think that, yes, they can outplay this 3v3. And very close fights down the stretch right here as Utapon tries to flash, but Humanoid saved his flash until the very end.
Minuscule margins really deciding this fight in the end. Steel not being level 6. If he had been there, he would have been able just to jump back, get out of that fight. And now a 1,500 gold lead for Splice early on. 2-0-2 on Kobe. One of the key carries for this team is that Xayah is Kobe. In fact, the only player that's returned from the 2016 World Squad that Splice sent in their debut year.
Yeah, that is going to be difficult for DFM to deal with, especially if he's able to get that Essence Reaver in early. The lane priority definitely in their favor, even though they were the ones that were kind of getting dove earlier. It's getting those kills with the help of the team that is allowing them to potentially get a big lead.
And it's part of having this Nocturne mid that the enemy team knows you're going to look for plays when you get towards that level 6. Like, Splice knew something like that was going to happen. Humanoid was already roaming down towards the bottom side to try and match Seos. And Seos came out of it okay. You know, 1-1-1 has a Tiamat now, building up towards his next item. Humanoid is in an okay position as well, but overall that mid lane's pretty even. It's the bot lane and the top lane really where Splice are getting these massive leads, and of course a little bit in the jungle.
I actually think in this context, like, Seros is proving Nocturne mid to be a good and viable pick.
Don't say that!
He is.
Venius will lose Elo. The paranoia coming out in the mid lane as the parallel convergence connects as well. And just as you say it, Jat, you were proven correct. Nocturne mid, everyone.
I mean, especially against Ryze. Like, Ryze cannot shove him out. You will not deny him farm. He's going to be able to get a large amount of AD. He's going to be able to ult frequently into side lanes. Like, it is it is powerful there. If the reason DFM is losing is because of quality ganks in top and bot from Splice, and the standard picks actually not coming through the way you would expect them to by DFM.
Nocturne mid, strong situationally. Splice starting up the Cloud Drake here, but DFM able to force them away. So Humanoid, of course, only just respawning means that he wouldn't be anywhere near that. Detonation, focus me. Actually playing this early game very effectively. There's a couple of mistakes, obviously, but keeping within about 1,000 gold from Splice after Xerxes got 2 early kills is very impressive from the Japanese team.
Yeah, it really is. Only a 1,000 goal lead, and you can argue that the Cloud Drake negates that in the grand scheme of things. They have Steel's Jungle Echo off to a decent start. Getting the Runic Echoes upgrade on Jungle Echo really slingshots that champion ahead. It actually makes his clear speed one of the fastest in the game, and then also with the reduced cooldown on the R. We're going to see more Pro Echo to see this, but I wouldn't be too surprised past level 11 if sometimes Echo actually just ults back to the map because the cooldown in his R starts getting so low, much like you used to see the Rek'Sai of 3 years ago, just ult to continually keep up map tempo. It can be a very powerful pick in those ways.
Farm alarm, I believe, is what we called it at the time when you just owed it back towards one of your tunnels. Now, Humanoid and Xerxes looking to get some vision in here, maybe going down towards bottom side. I do want to bring a little bit of attention to top as there's a 20 CS lead for Chachi.
Yeah.
He's been able to force out Evi pretty effectively. Cobbin and Norscaring getting damage down on towards these plates. Almost 3 entire plates there, which will just skyrocket this lead a tad. Skyrocket's probably not the word to use there. Accelerate this lead a tad. Norscaring trying to jump away, but the box isn't quite in the right place. Gang unable to find the connection, and with the Ignite ticking away at Norscaring, here comes Xerxes down towards the bottom lane. Humanoid on his way as well.
And Seros doesn't have ultimate yet on Nocturne, so a lot of pressure can be applied by the rest of Splice. In a few seconds, it's up. Now it is. Will we see a fight?
Seros there, Xerxes just around the corner. Paolo converges coming out the onslaught of shadows. The root's going to connect onto Seros, who pops Paranoia straight away. Norscaring gets the double knockup though, and it's 3v2 in favor of Splice. They take down one. The jump back from Steel with the Chrono Bake will get him to safety, but Splice were able to react to the play coming out from DFM. Now, Chachi locked up with the wallop. Evie still has the Gnar here. Chachi into the wall. Chachi's just being very greedy here. The slicing Maelstrom comes out, but Evie can still chase it and has the flash. Chachi with a great proto belt will get him to safety, but as you said, unbeaten on the Gnar in the top lane. Evie is showing his worth for Detonation Focus Me.
Yeah, I gotta give a lot of credit to Evie after dying early while burning his flash. Usually that's just the disaster scenario for a top laner, but he's really fought back in this lane in a lot of ways. But laning phase is mostly over as we're getting closer to 14 minutes, and it looks like Kobbe and Norscaring are gonna be coming up here.
Yeah, Evie was trying to
they might get another kill on him.
Evie was trying to keep Chachi around. Chachi still has the teleport. Of course, no ult on him. Flash available for Evie. If he wants to jump away, he'll just use the little hop. Steel goes in, tries to steal away the red from Xerxes, but Xerxes was having none of that. He'll secure his own buff for the time being. And now, as you say, taking 3 plates in the bottom lane, Splice say, okay, well, the Rift Herald's up on the top side. We can take that. There's no dragon for us to fight down towards that bottom side.
Yeah, and this could be the point in the game where it feels like Splice just kind of freezes their gold lead. I can see Xerxes just wanting to full clear his jungle as much as possible. I can see Kobbe wanting to just continue to farm up more and more, but they are going to the Rift Herald, which does show good proactive play.
Yeah, taking the Rift Herald will be able to open up just one of those towers for them, or at least a couple of plates, as you said last game. 2 plates tends to be free, and then maybe a little bit more after that. With Splice taking it, you expect them to go up towards the top side. And I want to come back towards that snowballing of the gold lead discussion, because it's actually very hard for Splice generally to accelerate their gold lead when they're winning. They get towards around the 15-20 minute mark, and they only get like 200-300 gold every 5 minutes, where when you look at DFM, when they're winning, they're actually really able to snowball a lead between the 15 and 25 minute mark.
Yeah, and the normal is closer to where DFM is when compared to what Splice has, if we're trying to give some aid to interpreting these stats. But also, looking at the overall gold in this game, it does look like Splice is going to approach 50 minutes at closer to a 3,000 gold lead, which is actually quite large at this point in the game. But here comes that Nocturne.
Paranoia. Nocturne's coming to get you as he jumps in. Seros taken low, though, trying to get on towards the backline. Kobbe with the Featherstorm was able to survive. Seros so low, the Blade Caller will rip back through him. And here comes the onslaught of shadows. Steel has to flash away. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, the box came down, but Gang has fallen. The damage coming out from Chachi is humongous. Let's go down towards bot. Udapon able to get taken down there by Humanoid as well. And Splice find 3 kills and don't lose a man.
Wow, so pre-15 minutes, Splice ends up breaking this game wide open. And it does go to show how hard it is to get on top of a good Zaya.
Yep.
Really, I think if DFM wants the Nocturne pick to succeed, they have to find some way of getting the Zaya R out before Nocturne jumps in. Because as we see right there, if he goes in and Zaya ults, he really just ends up not doing anything. It allows the Rakan to line up his CC. Just watch what ends up happening here. What needs to happen for DFM is Steel needs to get the R with his W, and then Seros needs to wait until the Zai is landed again. Otherwise, he just gets CC locked.
Yep.
Zai comes down, kills him.
The Rakan there to act as a bouncer as well makes it so difficult. Even Xerxes could have jumped across the wall with the Onslaught of Shadows to add some more CC if the Zaya had been caught out.
But then we're going to see what happened off screen. This is actually a double kill because they were just trying to pressure turret. And thanks to the roam from Humanoid after Vizicachi gets them so low, DFM feels like they have no choice but to kind of all in. Humanoid gets one root, lines it up for Chache. Oh, Yutapon greeds on top of it and falls as well. That's the press after you're already down in the game trying to find some way back, and you end up just falling even further behind.
And although Detonation Focus Me were able to keep relatively even in terms of turret plates, they are 6,000 gold behind. 9 kills, 3 down. The Ocean Dragon going over to Splice after DFM got a cloud earlier on, but you can start to see, yes, you can spell shield one part of the combo coming out from Humanoid, but he really doesn't matter. It really doesn't care. He just machine guns out those overloads and chunks out Seros in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Evie trying to get something going, but really, now it's on Splice. You just kind of execute the steps towards victory. Rotate their 3-0-2 Zaya towards the mid lane. Keep their Rise with an upgraded Seraphs in the side lane, and just keep getting all these outer turrets down.
And that's something Splice have traditionally been very good at. Is if they know the playbook, if they know the plays, they're very good at going, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Where they struggle is when someone throws a wrench in the works, when someone picks a Nocturne mid and gets ahead, those sorts of things. But usually, if they are in a winning position and they know exactly what their next steps are, they are pretty good at closing out the game. It might be slower than most people would like, but they will do it in the end.
Yeah, and slower doesn't always mean worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can mean worse, but this will be a point we end up touching on throughout the World Championship for sure. But really, to me, closing out a game isn't about time. It's about level of risk and certainty of victory. So if you are slow and that allows the other team to hit item breakpoints and makes it more risky, that's bad slow. But if you're going slow because you're not taking risk while still maintaining a certainty of victory, that's completely fine.
I think it's a debate that's sort of raged in the League of Legends world for a while, because coming into 2018, LCK was the most methodical region. You know, everyone wanted to emulate the perfect macro. No kills, nothing, just take all the towers and take the Nexus. You don't actually need to get kills to win the game. And then in 2018 Worlds, we started to see this explosion of heavy skirmish, LPL style. Let's get as many fights as possible. And I now think we've hit a healthy balance where we respect, you know, some of the LCK teams who've added a little bit of skirmishing into their style, but they can also look for fights like this. Now, meanwhile, in the mid lane, Kobe just on a rampage. The hook wasn't enough. Gang's gonna fall as well. And as you said, it's just Splice doing it by the numbers here. Xerxes was on the flank. Evie unable to find any sort of connection. And it's too easy for Splice right now. 7,000 gold ahead, 11 kills to 3 up. They've already broken the tier 2 in the bottom lane. They're looking towards tier 2 mid and the tier 2 top. Evie jumping in, caught out in the slicing mouse jump, and he went just a little bit too deep here. He's going to go into mini just before he falls. It's another kill over to Splice.
Yeah, this one is looking like it's going to be fast for Splice on the total spectrum of how you close out games, because that gold lead has just gone to 9,000. And we've also seen a reason it would be fast is actually not necessarily because Splice is making it fast, but because DFM is making it fast. Their options to try and win this game is to try and get kills and go in to come back in the game, but they keep trying to engage onto this very fed Zaya. This time, actually, it was even worse because they tried to engage onto Norscarin rather than Zaya and just got completely shredded.
Steel not actually even having ultimate, I believe, when he fell there, just going in for the fight underneath a tower. And then meanwhile in the top lane, Evie overextends just a little bit. Like, we've seen some moments of brilliance from him on this Gnar, but when you have a 4-and-1 Hecarim rampaging in from the side, it's no longer a 1v1 that you're fighting. You're fighting against all the members of Splice. We do just have a brief pause coming in. I'll find out what's going on with that as soon as possible. But 18 minutes in, this game is all done but the Nexus falling, you have to feel.
Apparently it's a keyboard issue that Splice has paused for, so hopefully they can resolve that fairly quickly. And yeah, looking at that, 12 kills to 3, 5 turrets to 1, 8,000 gold lead for Splice. I actually saw a Righteous Glory picked up by Humanoid's Rise.
Yeah.
Which I think is
Going
cool.
big.
I think even in situations where you're not against Nocturne mid for the extra armor, it can be good to try and chase down kills in the side lane. But to continue the conversation we're having, because I actually really like this topic of like how you were supposed to play League of Legends. And I know in the LEC we've had tons of talk about how G2 have revolutionized the way you think about it. And I think some of the things they've done with bringing mages more truly into the bot lane and flexing picks stronger is innovative, and a lot of people have replicated it. But I want to have more of a discussion around how you assess risk and how you create fights in League of Legends. Because the thing that to me happened in 2018 is vision was reduced, so the ability to make a decision with full knowledge was removed, or at least made a lot harder.
Yeah.
So the true skill test was making educated guesses as well as possible and then executing in variant situations. So I think there's still a world to make an educated guess and ward against the people that were going to be invading you. And I think we actually don't see as much of that as we should because people have so hardly corrected for the lack of vision.
I can definitely agree with that. I remember, playing in Season 2 when I was a support main and my entire job was to buy 14 wards, place them all over the map, and be like, well, my job's done now. I have 2 gold items.
Yeah, we're just seeing some replays right now of how Splice got to this 8,000 gold lead point. Close team fight, especially right here, where really just the smite on the Grom keeps Hecarim alive long enough to create this incredibly chaotic fight where Saros ends up falling, Kabe ends up picking up a number of kills in this engagement. And Humanoid's Rise, even though just his champion kit can't do great against Nocturne mid, he's been doing a good job to roam around and make things happen.
Yeah, I think a big part of this fight as well was Utapon not being able to be there until right at the end because they were past the tower. He couldn't couldn't go that far forward with DFM, and it meant Splice were able just to get that little bit of a lead out of that. And then, as you say, we see DFM just going for fights under their tower in what's basically a 2v3 situation, not really respecting the damage coming out from Splice. And then Evie gets chased off towards the side and ends up going down, trying to beat out of Izachachi. Looks like Xerxes just getting his keyboard settled there, as we say.
I heard it'll be another 2 minutes before that is finished. What?
Just break it into
What?
pieces. It's fine. So I think it's the the little front bit where you rest your wrists.
Yeah.
It seems like either that broke or
Or he didn't have it on his new keyboard.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Just snap it off.
I was like, we have 2 minutes to go, and then we show him just like breaking the new keyboard. We're like, well, I guess it's gonna be a while,
Maybe
guys.
3 minutes, maybe 3.
No, I think it'll be wrapped up pretty quick.
Yeah, that's the hope. And looking at sort of the expectations for this game, I think coming into it, a lot of people, we all expected Splice to take the win. It's kind of played out the way that it was anticipated. I like what DFM did with a little bit of inventiveness with the Nocturne mid, but it hasn't paid off for them. Coming into their next games, they're playing up against Isurus Gaming, the LATAM super team now. The first year we've seen the Latin America North and South combined for Worlds. Do you think they can try the same thing against that team, or do you think they need to go back to more conventional DFM style?
I think DFM, and this is not a cop-out answer, it's just what I think,
Okay, no, you can
should do whatever they think they're best at.
Yeah.
I think we've seen time and time again when you have so many different regions clashing with so many different regions, like sure you can try to tailor your play style to specifically counter the person you're playing against, but you're much more likely to find success just playing your game because it's likely the other team doesn't have practice against it anyway, and you're not going to get enough practice countering their style to do it well enough to win. Thinking about the group more overall, though, you have Splice was the pool 1 team, Isurus was pool 2, DFM was pool 3, and we saw Spawn at the start of the day actually say he thinks Isurus will top the group.
Yeah.
So that's a team that I am very excited to see start playing because it is the North and South combined from LATAM, and we're going to see that really reach its full force for the first time ever because they had such an amazing summer split and have basically the best player in their role in jungle, mid, AD, and support in the whole region. So it's very much a super team we're going to be seeing from Isurus, which makes this group very, very difficult for DFM, even if DFM is a team that has shown some international legs lately.
I think some of the players on that Isurus Gaming, you've seen them around so often that you'll know their names, even if you don't know them as Isurus Gaming players. Like War Angelus is there, Saya, the 11-time champion, the most decorated domestic player ever in any region. Like, to take anyone in the world, they haven't got as many titles as Saya has. And he's never really had the chance to like push past play-ins, knockouts on an international stage. And the hope is for Latin America and for this team that this is the year that they're able to really challenge.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Every single one of these teams is the best in their region or just completely dominated the region. Like, it wasn't even a question for some of them. And they're going to get very familiar with each other. So DFM and Splice, right, they're going to play 2 games against the other 2. So both of these guys will play 2 games against Disrus and 2 games against each other.
We are back onto Summoner's Rift, and just to give a quick recap of where we are, 19 minutes in, it's almost a 10,000, we're about 8,000 gold lead here for Splice. There's a Baron up in a minute's time, there's a Cloud Drake in a minute and a half, and looks like Splice are going down towards bot. Realm Warp in, Evie trying to get away, still has the flash, but Xerxes on the chase, flash away. Evie will burn his Summoner to keep his life.
Yeah, 1 minute 30 seconds until Cloud Drake, 1 minute until Baron, that's the stuff next in the playbook for Splice, and then the question will be, does DFM continue to try and find picks to close it out? Because honestly, at this point, they don't necessarily have much choice. And I think Splice is going to, they just need to make sure they stay as grouped as possible so that the Nocturnal can't end up getting picks. Or, hey, let's just go in.
Yeah, Noskarian goes in for the engage. Steel's going to pop the Chrono Break. That was a little bit ambitious, you have to feel. And meanwhile, on the backside of the fight, Humanoid is fleeing. Evie going in. The perfect position here for DFM. And they are sweeping Splice. A double kill comes out. Chachi trying to go back in. Look at the damage coming back out from Xerxes. Tommy on the front line now opens up and it turns around. But in a moment, for a moment there, Detonation Focus Me had hope. They had a glimpse back into this game, but Splice ripped it out of their hands.
What a combo that was by Evie and the rest of DFM. But that also goes to show how it's pretty nice to have a Kabe on your team. Right? The guy who's just able to remain untouched when everyone else gets caught. And this ended up being not the best engage by Noskarian. He's going on to an Echo who can not be CC locked for the duration of the ult. And then Humanoid was flanked, but no one knew because they were still under effects of the darkness from Nocturne. And then when they come out of it, oh crap, we're all against this wall, there's a Veganar, right? All these surprises, but that's the 8,500 gold lead kind of hitting them in the face as they're unable to clean up as the Cannon ult gets everyone low enough for Kabe to clean up.
Oh, it was so close. Xerxes wasn't actually caught in the ultimate coming out from Evie either, because he was at the end of the Onslaught of Shadows where you're unstoppable. We do just have another pause coming out. I'm sure we'll get this rectified as soon as possible. But yeah, there was a moment there where if Detonation Focus Me hadn't been 8,000 gold behind, if it was 2 or 3,000, they win that fight. They destroy that fight. You know, everyone from Splice is locked up. And it was just great from Detonation Focus Me. I had so much hope for them for just a second.
And I think it's important to note that you shouldn't necessarily take too much from the results of these games, because there are things that happen. If we saw the highlights of kind of how we got to this point where there was a very close gank in the top lane where Evie missed his hop on Gnar by just like a pixel on Kennen. And if he lands that, then when he burns his flash, he doesn't die. And then
he doesn't smite the Grump, he dies.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Evie wins lane after that point, and then maybe, well, Xerxes smiting the Grump is like a good play, but then the rest of it is like DFM didn't have to continue that play.
True.
And they're these small things that have such large implications later. And luckily, we were back into the game.
Straight back on into it. Baron is up 20 minutes in. Gang is going to go there and ward. Splice all coming back out of their base around the same time. Let's have a look at where we are in terms of items. Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, and Rapid Fire Cannon on Kobe. He's got no summoners now. There's an Infinity Edge on Udapon alongside an Essence Reaver, but yet to get that third completed item. Chachi going to Spellbreaker up towards that top side. You can sometimes see it on the cannon, gets you that bit more movement speed, get into the back of the fight, and his main job is just AoE CC alongside a lot of magic damage, of course, coming out from the cannon. Expectations are now that Splice set up towards this Baron, get vision control. You can see Xerxes down towards the bottom side getting a Cloud Drake because really Detonation Focus Me can't challenge.
Make sure they're collecting as many objectives bot side as possible before they fully set up around the Baron pit. And I mean, we basically saw the dream fight for DFM, but it still wasn't enough. The dream fight would be to actually kill Kabe while you get your Gnar ult off, because if they don't do that with the 3 items, a full rapid fire cannon ahead of Udapon on the other side, Kabe's just going to shred him.
Definitely is. You can see Xerxes coming down here trying to protect his mid laners. Steel and Evie look to see if they can catch out Humanoid, who has pushed up. Evie has a teleport, so would be able to join a fight around Baron if it did start up. But for the moment, Splice are willing just to get the lanes pushed in. Haven't really got too much deep vision. They've got kind of superficial surface level vision into the detonation focus me jungle, but they want to get some of these pink wards or control wards cleared out if they can before they go towards that next major objective.
Yeah, easy to posture with the Hecarim while the ultimate is up. Really, any engage that DFM
Humanoid.
does has to be an all-in.
Okay, Humanoid's going to be able to walk away there. I thought Evie was going to catch him out. Yudapon and Gang were on their way. And as you say, yeah, DFM have to go all in. You have to just go hell for leather, try and find one fight that you can win. Maybe even bring Evie away from this lane, sacrifice the inhib and say, okay, we'll just go for a full 5v4 if we can. Seros, of course, has the ultimate still. If Humanoid oversteps...
Yeah, they're going to go for kill and trade the Baron.
Paranoia
That's
coming
the hope.
in. Realm Warp is going to be feared, but he still manages to get in it just in time. Humanoid escapes, but here comes the TP. Humanoid low, has to go back to base, has the teleport to join the fight if they want to go for it. But for now, Splice just accept the teleport. It's the only one on the side of DFM. It means no one will be able to match Humanoid in a side lane easily again.
Yeah, I think that was actually another fairly good play by DFM there. But another narrow miss, right? Like
That's 100 HP between winning that or not.
Yeah, they had the plan of getting the kill and then teleporting back to push Splice off Baron because there are no Mountain Drakes on Splice and their Baron DPS is not that great. But again, huge gold deficit, and now Splice back on the Baron.
No
teleport
no
this time.
flash, no quickness on the Rakan though, and Evie almost has the Mega Gnar. Hook coming out, no scaring, gonna catch out Steel. Kobe goes godlike. Once again, it feels like one of Gang's hooks maybe basted in his jungler just a tad. Detonation focus me shouldn't be able to fight this now that the jungler is down. Splice will secure a 23.5-minute Baron, a 10,000 going up to about 12,000 gold lead after they get this. And you have to think they should just be able to get towards these side lanes and start pushing it.
Yeah, and my boy Jungle Echo is not having the greatest appearance on the world stage, although I do think we'll continue to see him more. But what keeps happening, both to Lyra's Echo and now to Steel's Echo, is they're getting CC locked or rooted, and that actually prevents you from casting the R on Echo. So we do actually see Mercury treads by Steel here, which is a more defensive option, trying to at least allow him to more likely be able to press his R, but it just hasn't been working out.
And I wonder how much of that is like the scrim meta. You know that Echo Jungle is going to be good, so you're starting to plan, how do we deal with Echo Jungle? We can leave it open, we don't have to ban it then, and then maybe we pick, you know, a Hecarim for the knockback, for the fear, we pick a Kennen for the stun, we pick a Rakan to get the knock up as well. If you can lock him in place long enough, as you say, you can just take him out.
Yeah, and I also think it's the difference between playing a new champion in solo queue or scrims and playing it on stage at Worlds.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be that extra barrier before having full comfort on a champion, other than like something like Kabe Zaya, who he's played on stage, this exact stage, dozens of times.
Here we go. Splice looking down towards that bottom lane. Righteous Glory was popped there by Humanoid. Xerxes looking for an engage as well if he can find it, but the inhibitor tower's already fallen. Here goes Steel, jumping in. Norscaven answers back. Steel chunked out, manages to jump back with the chrono break. He'll survive for the moment, but Splice is still very healthy and can just push in towards this bottom lane. There's a minion wave on its way. Minions in the mid lane as well that Xerxes is going to go and help out buff up with the Baron buff. But for the moment, Splice will just try and take one inhibitor. Xerxes can come in from the side. Bot lane inhibitor down to about half HP. Splice should get this one. Detonation focus me, unable to find an engage to answer it. Norscaven going to jump across the wall here onto Vizichachi, and now Splice rotate towards the mid lane. Second inhibitor tower there, target Evie. Whoa, Evie almost down. Humanoid flashing in, but Evie goes out. There's the Paranoid coming out. The slicing mouse one's going to connect onto Gang. The Unstoppable also on towards the back line, and here comes the damage. Realm Warp in. It's only Kobe, but he will steal away the kill from Steel. And now Unicorn is in an awful position. Double kill over to Splice. They take 3. They take the second inhibitor, and they'll be looking for the Nexus.
Yep, still have another minute and 20 seconds on this Baron. They have the teleport on Chachi, who really actually wanted to get back to base so he could teleport on that minion, which ended up being killed. But they were all coming back in here and looking to take their first game at Worlds.
Yeah, still a minute left on the Baron buff. Should be pretty easy here for Splice. They're going to strike first as they take the damage onto Evie. He almost falls on the fountain. Just give it to him. It's a double for Kobe. The Nexus towers fall, and Splice strike first in Group B.
And a beautiful first game from Kobe. 11-0-5, 30 more CS than his opponent. So many clutch team fights where he dodged the enemy engage just right while still getting out maximum damage. That is basically the Splice we expected to see coming out here, if not a little bit faster.
A lot faster than I was expecting, chat, I'll be honest.
I mean,
they ended the game before the 30-minute mark. What's going on?
to be fair, if you're like this really strong person and these other people just keep throwing themselves at you, I don't know if that's ever happened to you as a very strong person.
No one's throwing themselves at me, Jeff.
But you do in like a combative sense. You're going to fight back, and it's just going to happen, right? So I think that's why this game was accelerated so quickly, because DFM just kept trying to force, and Splice could do nothing but just swat him away.
And with 4 newcomers onto the world stage, they had a very strong Game 1 performance. You can see how much it means to them as well. As Chachi, Xerxes, and crew just high-five the crowd. Great performance all around by Splice. I think Detonation Focus Me showed their hand a little bit. It didn't work out, but I do appreciate the experimentation that they went for with that Nocturne in the mid lane.
Yeah, and it's potentially the last we'll see of Nocturne mid, but I don't think it has to be. I think the Nocturne was by no means the reason DFM ended up losing this game. I think they ended up getting outplayed in the side lanes before Seros could end up making an impact on this pick, and I can absolutely see how he had mid lane priority on the rise. That's really all you need from a mid laner is mid lane priority and the ability to attack a side lane. He could have done that, so we might see it again.
It was a game of inches on that bottom lane dive. We're going to check out some of the plays from Kobbe in that last game. As you said at the end of the game, he was pretty dominant on Desire, as to be expected. And you can see Detonation Focus Me, as you said, did throw themselves into him a little bit, but you still have to catch it when it gets thrown to you.
Yeah, and he's immediately turning for maximum damage. He's laying his feathers out just right. This is the fight where it looked like for a fraction of a second, this was right after a long pause, hey, maybe DFM is going to be able to get something. They nearly kill Humanoid. Watch Evie's Gnar get this big ult off. Kobbe is stunned, but he's not damaged that much, and then he gets his ult off, which he can just rip through the entire team with, while Chachi was keeping them all still with the cannon. And that was the cleanup that really the nail in the coffin for the game.
It was so close there, though. You could see Kobbe almost falling before he got the Older mode off. Him and Roscoe were locked up pretty effectively. And I think like coming into the next few games, Kobbe will take a lot of confidence out of that. You did wonder whether he'd perform on the world stage after it being, 3 years since he'd been here before, and since he is such a consistent carry for the team. The team should be looking at that and saying, okay, well, we can play our general style. We can play the way we usually play at the world stage. I wonder if they'll be then looking to see if they can experiment with something in the play-in stage. Yeah,
there's always that chance they try and throw in something a little bit new just to throw curveballs at the other team. But my advice to all these teams is play what you think you're best at.
Play what you know. Well, we're going to hear from Xerxes now, who's standing by with Dracos, and we'll see if they're going to play what they know.
Interesting that you bring that up. Xerxes, you yourself busting out new picks that we have not seen in a long time in the Hecarim in your first game on the world stage. Talk to me a little bit about what was going through your mind as you're playing on home soil, in the sense that you play in the studio every week, but you're playing against completely new people for much higher stake. What's that experience like?
Honestly, it's just so crazy to think that I'm in the same studio I've been playing for years now, but I'm not playing against the players I've been playing before. I'm playing against totally new faces that I have no idea what their playstyle is like. So yeah, it's just such a unique experience.
Overall, it feels like it was a pretty confident first win for Splice. Talk to me about what success looks like for you guys right now. You're starting in play-ins. I know aspirations for groups, but where does it end for you guys? What would you define as success for this team?
I mean, I would like to believe that because we played in Europe and we've been playing against teams like Fnatic and G2 who have been destroying us, the teams from play-ins shouldn't be able to match that. So I'm pretty confident.
Looking ahead at the matches in front of you, you guys also obviously have like Isris in your group. Do you really see anyone as a threat right now, or do you feel like you guys are head and shoulders above the competition?
Honestly, as long as we play our game and we don't think too much about the enemy, we can win against everybody.
All right, final question. Echo Jungle, you're kind of an innovator yourself, Xerxes. You pulled out crazy picks over the years. Echo Jungle, 0 for 2. On the stage. We heard about it in Vedia's picks for Watch. Just a final question. What are your thoughts on this? Is this pick actually worth it? Is it actually good, or is this something that's kind of getting overhyped?
Well, we'll see later when I might pick it, and yeah.
All right, we'll see you later when you pick it. A little bit of a spoiler there. Sorry, Duke. All right, when we return, it'll be our third match of the day. Thank you again, Xerxes, and congrats on the win.
Thank you.
Push him away, and here comes Unicorn, but the knockup's not quite going to connect. Gang goes down, Humanoid still trading, Unicorn flashing forward. The damage from Splice is huge here. Paranoia, Nocturne's coming to get you as he jumps in. Seros taken low though, trying to get on towards the backline. Kobbe with the Featherstorm was able to survive. Seros so low, the blade collar will rip back through him. And meanwhile on the is fleeing and they're going in. Oh, the perfect position here for DFM, and they are sweeping Splice. A double kill comes out. Chung trying to go back in. Look at the damage coming back out from Zersi. Coming on the front line now opens up and it turns around. Humanoid flashing in, Davey goes out. There's the paranoid coming out. The slicing mouse one's going to connect onto Gang. The unstoppable also on towards the back line, and here comes the damage. Round warp in. It's only Kobe, but he will steal away the kill from Steel, and now Unicorn is in an awful position.
We came to fight, we came to win. We lost before, but never again. Back on our grind, you know what it is. We gotta win, win.
And welcome back to 2019 League of Legends World Championship at the State Farm Analyst Desk, where we are counting down towards Mammoth versus the Unicorns of Love. Let's start with Mammoth. They are in the hunt for international success and to bring back oceanic losses from extinction. Mammoth have put together the best players in the OPL, and this is the moment of truth because Spawn, your boys have struggled for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while since Oceania has been able to make a splash on the international stage. In fact, you have to kind of go back to IWCQI times when the Chiefs Esports Club was playing. However, this is the super team that a lot of people have been waiting to make it to the international stage. It was kind of an upset when they didn't win Split 1 and the Bombers came. And now with brand new rookie top laner, 17-year-old Fudge, this is a team that is looking to do some serious damage.
Yeah, and this was a team that in the regular season were actually tied for first place, fell down due to a head-to-head, but then roll into playoffs as the second seed, cruise through Order 3-0, then 3-0 up against the Chiefs as well.
Was it cruising? Is that what you're going to call it?
3-0, I call that a cruise.
Well, look, is this the team that is going to make the region proud? We spoke a little bit about it on Countdown earlier today, and you had a lot of high praise for many of the players on this Mammoth roster, and now they're also coming up against a UOL who picked up a surprise win earlier in the day.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that this is the kind of team that would have taken a lot away from that win. They would have said, this is proof that anyone can beat anyone, that this is a wide open group, and that if we are able to have a very good game versus UOL, all of a sudden, maybe it becomes a race to beat Clutch out if this Unicorns team is certainly top dog. And the difference between this team and previous OPL teams is they don't have a cemented style. They're much more fluid. Triple is a big carry for this team, but they could also play around Fudge. And they have a substitute top laner, which they did use for a lot of the games, in which case, when they play top Boon, they do play heavily around bottom lane. So I think that a lot more options for this team than maybe previous Oceanic lineups.
Okay, give me a little bit more information on Triple, because you said he's the star, you said he's the surprise player. I am looking down some of his win-loss records, like 5-0 on Vladimir.
Yep.
I want to see if that's going to come up.
3 of them were against Order, by the way, which is really nice. This is also against it. He's a really good laner on Vladimir, which I think is surprising. He's actually quite aggressive on the pick, does use it to push up a lot in lane and team up well with Babip. And then as far as team fighting goes, Triple's always just been known as this team fighting monster that picks his moment very well in games and can take over.
It also varies a little bit from the rest of the squad, right? Because Triple will go out and win his lanes, whereas the rest of his team isn't super focused on powering through the laning phase. It's more about getting into those later game fights.
Okay, let's move on to Unicorns of Love. I'm hearing that Picks and Bans is getting close to being ready, as well as the introduction. Unicorns of Love, they pulled up that massive upset win against Clutch. Ananasik came out the gates swinging heavy and hard. Boss had some fantastic outplays, and it was a shock, but a pleasant one. And it was in a way that you were hoping UOL would play to win.
Yeah, not looking at draft right now, just in terms of individual play, I think Boss performed very well with multiple outplays. He didn't smash Huni in lane, but he absorbed a lot of pressure, which we knew was going to be thrown his way. And then Ananasik out of the jungle, we expected him to be good, but I still think this guy's the best jungler in his group for sure here. He was super active in the early game, and Path to be able to find all these plays and put UOL in the lead.
And now you do have to talk about draft, because they actually had a very good read on what Clutch wanted to do as well. Forced Huni away from his big picks in the Gangplank as well as the Rumble, and then unlock the top side of the map for Ananasik. I said if Huni can impact the jungle matchup, this will do a lot to set Clutch up for success. Well, that didn't happen. Ananasik built a 2-level lead and just took over the jungle.
Yeah, Ananasik will run over games because he's a greedy jungler. The Unicorns of Love, they love to play through this guy and to enable him to carry. But this comes with some side effects. There were moments in that game where he's invading the enemy jungle without pressure in his lanes, without knowledge of where Lyra was on the map. And it's those type of plays that can catapult you ahead, or if you can be found out, be heavily punished.
But if you don't get found out, this is how you generate solo leads. And I don't think the junglers in this group Babip is also quite a passive jungler, will be the kind of junglers to punish this. We've got a Skarner main and a Sejuani main. Neither of those champions are chasing anyone out of the jungle.
I'm actually super, super grateful that you brought that up, because when we were sitting on the desk, I know Jat and Medic called it out in the cast as well. Oh, he got away with it. Oh, he wasn't spotted. Ender, you were pulling your hair out at some of the invades that Ananasik was doing, and Clutch just didn't see it. So hearing Spawn say that maybe Mammoth may not be aware, maybe Mammoth have to adjust some of their vision strategy or the communication in a way. But like, how much is that going to impact this game right now?
Well, I mean, you know that he's going to be crazy. You know he's going to be creative. We heard Huni talk about it, right? He said, this team, really hard to predict. But that means it's not easy to develop a strategy to like counter it. Yes, you can have better vision. You can try to track the enemy jungler more effectively. But at the end of the day, if Unicorns of Love have 3 winning lanes and a vastly superior early jungle matchup, it is all up to Ananasik to run wherever the hell he wants.
But he didn't have 3 winning lanes. Bottom lane was a disaster.
Should have been.
Blue flash very early in that game. And that's what I was going to say. It comes down to destiny this game. Can the support of Mammoth actually help Babip kick him out of the jungle? Because this jungle invade is never just a solo style.
We are about to find out in a moment or two, because we're not quite ready. I do have a few seconds more. I just want to zoom out really quick because we have spoken about the matchup. Some interesting picks. Echo has appeared in both games, lost both games. The Heimerdinger showing up in the bot lane. I mean, are we expecting some more majors? And I won't give you a chance to find out. We're all set for
Great
game
chat,
3.
Trev.
Let's leave it to Medic and Chat.
As we turn back to Group A, please join me in welcoming a team making their world's debut. Representing the Oceanic Pro League, it's Mammoth! Take your seats and we'll see you on Summoner's Rift. And of course, as you say, Mammoth making their debut here at Worlds, the OPL team coming out. The team that really dominated the region was expected to come here against Unicorns of Love, who beat out Clutch earlier on.
Yeah, and I think Spawn pointed it out on the desk. As far as the OPL representatives, so many times there's been this really close race in the OPL playoffs, and then when the team arrives there and loses, everyone says, why didn't we send the other team? Yeah, but the fact that the last 2 rounds of the playoffs for Mammoth were decisive, 3-0, 3-0. This is exactly who they want to send. Triple with the strong laning phase. Fudge, their 17-year-old top laner, second youngest player at the World Championship, but has come out in the really only few months he's played pro and looked very good. So overall, they're actually happy to be in this group. It's a tough road for any Pool 3 team to try and make it out of here. And with how strong Unicorns looked in Game 1, it's going to be tough. But you never know how good these teams are going to be until you see them play on stage.
That's the thing. We talked about it in the last game. You know, Dead Nation Focus Me dominated their region, and then Splice were able to take the win over them. Here, we've seen Unicorns of Love just beat Clutch, but Mammoth are dominant in the OPL. Will this be the year where the OPL really rises up and starts to challenge for those play-in knockout stages? We are into picks and bans. Mammoth on the blue, Unicorns of Love on the red. Kiana banned, Pantheon banned. Nothing too surprising as of yet.
Yeah, the only thing that's a little surprising to me is the amount of blue side Kiana bans we're seeing. Usually if there's a pick you always need to ban, red side ends up being held with that burden, which is what we're seeing with Pantheon. And yeah, you're checking your notes because the Kale ban comes out for Mammoth. I can talk to this a little bit.
Okay.
It is something that has been played an increasing amount by some of the pros in solo queue. The fact that Kale now gets range at level 6 means it's much more viable. I think we will see it at Worlds. Didn't expect to see it as a blue side ban, but there you have it.
Yeah, not something we've seen from Unicorns of Love during the regular season, but as you say, those changes came after 9-16, so that's perhaps why it has been banned out here. The Morgana removed, Rakan and Vladimir taken away. Instantly, the Syndra that we have seen banned in our first 2 games gets locked in.
Yeah, time to flex it as well. It's not like King is foreign to playing non-marksman in the bottom lane, has played 4 Sona games in summer, also a Swain, so very possible we get to see that Cinder bot lane.
See if that was what the most decorated player in the OPL wants. 5 championships under his name. It's King. With the Renekton being locked in here. Expect that to go up towards boss in the top lanes. Played that 5 times this split. 3 and 2 on it across the course of the regular season.
Yeah, and Unicorns going to be riding so much confidence after that decisive win over Clutch, where they actually defeated the mid lane Renekton and the jungle Echo, but willing to just throw down the power picks and run it back.
Usually it's if you can't beat them, join them, but here it's if you beat them, then join them. And
take them and do it yourself.
We'll see how effective an analyst can be on that jungle Echo. We heard from the analyst that's just how strong he was in game one, how much impact he had with some of those invades. And Echo, of course, a very elusive champion when you try and catch onto him. Will be pretty effective at getting out of some of those fights. And now Mammoth hovering over the gangplank. Fudge is a player that, as we've said, is only 17 years old, very young, but has had a huge impact since he joined this team on picks like the gangplank top.
Yeah, I do wonder if they're just going to follow the Renekton around the map with that GP. I'm not completely opposed to that possibly going mid lane, just with how much flex picks we've seen. But yeah, Mammoth definitely switching it up a little bit. And a Skarner for them as well, which is not too uncommon for Babip.
Now, three games on it, 3 wins for Babip out of that jungle role, and likes those champions where he can farm up and then have some impact around that level 6 mark.
Do it.
They didn't do it. They didn't do it, Jack.
I want to see new
so
Asol with an active W, so his stars come out and shoot really fast for a few seconds and then go away.
It's the tumble dryer, I believe. Or the speed spin.
Yeah.
The Kai'Sa will be locked in. That'll go down towards Inax in the bottom lane. Of course, that is his most played. It's usually more effective on sort of the off-meta AD carries, the off-meta bot laners like the Heimerdingers, like the Garen Yumis, rather than things like the Kai'Sa. But Unicorn's here saying, well, we can remove some more of those AD picks.
Yeah, I mean, for a team that was so successful, 12-2 in the regular season and then the league champions, the fact that he's 2-4 on Kai'Sa, not the best sign. I actually have some concerns about this pick if we do see Syndra bottom lane, because there's a relatively amount of short range on Kai'Sa, and you could get a lot of kill pressure with the Syndra, but maybe just respecting the power of the pick, wanting to ban out opponent AD carries. It almost seems like they're not expecting this Syndra to go bot whatsoever. It's possible that Syndra could be mid lane, but most of the Syndra I've seen has actually been bot leading up to this.
King historically is an AD bot lane player. He plays marksman. That's what he has always done. Has like 1 Swain game and I think 1 Sona game this split.
4 Sona games, yeah.
So yeah, maybe he will go towards the Syndra. But we'll see. It's an all-purple bottom lane as the Alistar gets locked in for Edward. He likes those champions where he can go in, where he can be the primary engage for the team. And now Mammoth we expect their support and their mid laner left to pick. Or wherever the gangplank is.
You can flex it. That's the nice thing about picking Syndra early. Again, Ashe is another pick I've been talking about a lot. Trist can also go in the solo lane. Unicorns of Love know all about that, and they're just cycling through everything to confuse us. Don't talk about hovers.
Yeah, Nautilus is locked in here for Mammoth. They will be taking that down towards the support role, we expect. Could, of course, go mid. We saw a little bit of Nautilus mid with AP, and the Tristana is the next hover that you've told me not to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. As you say, could be in a solo lane, could be mid Tristana here, so still a lot of flexibility on the side of Mammoth.
I mean, I think it will be. I think it will be mid Tristana or top Tristana. I think it's a flexible solo lane pick, and we know that it's good against Renekton in the absence of jungle intervention, which we actually got to see Noman's beat up on Damonte with that pick.
We did. Unicorns of Love here looking towards their mid lane, you have to expect. Noman's has a wealth of options left open. The Corki is his most played this split, but saying that he's played it 4 times and everything else he's played 3 or 2, so he's got a huge champion pool. With the Corki locked in though, we can see the compositions finally taking their fully rounded setups. Anything surprising here for you?
I'm a little surprised that No Man's is still on Corki despite the fairly substantial nerfs he saw on 916. And I will be surprised if that Syndra doesn't end up going bottom lane, because I think it would be a very good matchup against the Kai'Sa, but they have 5 more seconds to swap it if they so choose.
Right now, it seems like it is going mid. We have seen Syndra into Corki before. Expect the Corki, if they're feeling pressure, to get an early Hex Drinker. That tends to be the way of things. It does delay the Triforce a little bit. It means that Noman's doesn't hit his earlier power spike as he usually would, but you can be pretty safe into that matchup on the side of the Corki.
Yeah, first Syndra game for triple in summer. but the overall balance spread of the team is totally fine. I do like the Gangplank into the Renekton, not from a sense that it will dominate, but because I think it is actually a decent laning pick against Renekton and can stop some of the free gank setup Renekton has, since he gets the oranges from whenever he decides to put a skill point in W.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually really interesting to just see like how many picks these teams are choosing that they haven't played in the regular season, or that we haven't seen them play. Of course, meta's shifted over the last 3 patches, but Fudge hasn't played Gangplank. We haven't seen Triple play the Syndra in summer, as you said. King hasn't played the Tristana in summer. Destiny, he is on the Nautilus. Well, that is, you know, he's played it a couple of times, but they are lesser known picks for these teams, and it's surprising a little bit to see you come into Worlds and play something that perhaps you haven't played consistently across the split.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of them are doing, as I think now that we're basically 10 years into competitive League of Legends, is teams are getting better at actually being flexible, and I think they're trying to put more thought into the overall team composition rather than just, yeah, I'm a really good X player and I'm going to play that way.
That makes sense. I think the age of just being good at one champion to be able to be competitive on it is kind of fallen by the wayside, especially you know, with 5 bans coming in quite a long time ago. It makes it a lot more difficult for you. But let's talk about kind of the expectations early on for these two teams. Usually we see Skarner's farm up, and there's a lot of farming tools on the side of Mammoth. Unicorns of Love have the Echo jungle, could look for some of those invades. Is there anything you think we need to keep our eyes on in the first 5 to 10 minutes of this game, Jat?
Yeah, I want to see if Ananasek decides to try and steal any camps from Skarner early on in the game. Skarner's one of the fastest early clear junglers, and generally will end up doing a Predator gank pre-6, but for the most part, we'll do a full clear. If UOL has any type of guess where he started, knowing how aggressively we saw invades from the UOL jungler in game 1, we could see something for that, and I want to track it.
Yeah, well, make sure our eyes are on the Echo, who started down towards his blue buff. Red buff start for Babbitt on the side of Mammoth, who, as we've said, did really dominate the end of the OPL. 3-0 against Order, 3-0 against the Chiefs, who were a few people's picks to make it to the world stage. And after being, you know, they've had their ups and downs. They've been consistently okay, but then they really exploded onto the scene in summer and started to dominate. Was it Direwolves we saw at MSI? I believe it was.
I believe you're right.
I'm going to check my notes quickly, but I can't because I can't min-max my screen properly.
I mean, this is Mammoth's opportunity to throw the group into total chaos.
Yeah.
Because if they win this, that means they'd be 1-0, UOL will be 1-1, and Clutch, the Pool 1 seed, would end up being 0-1. That would be that would be the spiciest thing to see.
The dankest timeline, I believe, is what most people say there, Jad. But yes, I think it was Bombers, it wasn't Direwolves that we saw at MS.
Oh, shoot.
Just to correct myself. Yeah, I think it would be a real upset. As we've said, like, yes, of course, your first game matters. Yes, of course, the first round robin matters a lot. But it's consistency that we want to see from these teams if they get a challenge to go into those knockout stages, into then groups afterwards. And every team in this group has had claim on a group stage spot in the past if they haven't made it. You know, OPL is probably the region that has struggled the most to make it towards playing knockouts and really challenge, but we've seen teams like Albus Nox Luna make it all the way to quarterfinals at Worlds in the past from the CIS region. We've seen NA teams, Cloud9 specifically last year, make it all the way to semifinals after going through the play-ins. So every region represented here has a big of a challenge, and we'll see if they can make it. Fudge wants it, as you say, but Boss able to flash away, and here comes Ananasek.
Bad timing.
Oh, Fudge. Oh, Fudge indeed. He's dead.
Man.
Ananasek will flash away from the tower, and first blood goes to the Unicorns of Love.
That is exactly what Ananasek wants. I mean, Fudge, I like the Moxie, trying to go for it on GP, thought he had enough damage, but when you trade your flash forward and burn so much of your health and have no idea where the enemy jungler is, you do set yourself up for that type of play. In terms of his actual lane, right now it's actually not as impacted as you think it would be because Renekton didn't get the kill. The kill did go to the jungler and he can teleport right back, but now we're going to see if Echo can take over the game. Watching this again, he's just trying to... He thought he had more minions on Boss as well, but really just miscalculates the damage. And then, as you can see, shield comes in for Ananasek. gets the kill.
Didn't need to go and steal camps, instead could just steal a kill underneath the Mammoth top lane tower. Boss going to come over here and make sure that that Scuttlecrab goes over to the Unicorns of Love. They have a slight gold lead, 200, 300 thereabouts, and now Triple maybe pushed a little bit too far forward because Ananasik, no flash on him, does have the Stalker's Blade, now can land the smite going forward. Boss coming in from the side as well. Triple's going to have to flash away, but the stun still connects, and the chase is on. The knockback with the Scatter of the Weak, tanking the tower is Ananasik, but Triple escapes in the mid lane.
Making sure to click that potion before the rest of the gank comes in. Does end up burning his flash and allow Nomans to push that lane out, but very close to trying to break that one open. And what ends up happening is Boss was using his TP advantage to try and make that play happen. Now he expends it.
Boss playing with the Ninja Tabi up towards that top lane as well. Knows that Fudge does have the harass potential with the parlay. Gangplank just very easy to point and click on towards your opponent. So Boss says, well, I'll get an early Ninja Tabi to try and mitigate some of that damage. A lot of this early game now is going to be defined by how Ananasik goes through the jungle, where he's looking to gank.
Yeah, Ananasik is a different style in this game as well. He's not the one who's been hard farming. He's been ganking as much as possible early, converting one of them. And if we actually look at the gold, it is 2,050 on the Echo and 1950 on Babip. So
100 gold lead.
Really not that much of a lead, despite being able to pick up that first blood.
Of course, part of that is because Babbitt has been farming up. He has Predator on this Skarner. Expect a level 6 gank relatively soon. At the moment, he's going to go get his Gromp, the only camp that is available to him. One of only 2 camps available on the entire map. But now with top lane flash being down, with mid lane flash being down, Mammoth have to be a little bit safer. And you can see Ananasik is positioning up towards top side, understanding maybe that Fudge could overextend here.
You know, Skarner's still not quite level 6, and a massive wave crashing into the turret, so it's correct for Skarner to be here to cover Fudge, but it's definitely not correct for Fudge to try and make an aggressive play at this point, and just making sure he doesn't get doped.
I think Fudge has shown us that he's pretty willing to make an aggressive play if he wants to. Didn't need to, as you say. Oh, a little bit of a knockback there from Edward, but Destiny can just push
Edward might
forward
be
here.
in trouble. Might have to
There's
flash.
the dredge line. Edward might have to flash, as you say. The Ignite coming in. There's the flash away. Destiny had to burn a flash of his own, and Inax trades back on the Kai'Sa. But once again, it's Edward just being too far forward, too aggressive in some of these plays.
Yeah, completely agree. That was very close to being a kill. However, Mammoth end up burning more summoner spells in that overall engagement. So that's one of those things where if you judge the result, it was fine. But if you think about the process, it was definitely not worth it.
I'm a big fan of results-based analysis. I think I've learned from Twitter that that is the best way to evaluate a situation.
I mean, you're always right.
Yeah.
If you use results as your main
metric.
dictator of success.
So early on, let's have a look at some of the results of this laning phase. A bit of a CS lead for Triple in the mid lane, about 10 farm ahead. Bot lane is in King's favor as well. And across the board, Mammoth have been able to mitigate some of the gold deficit they would have from the first kill by just having more CS than their opponents. The 7-minute mark, we've yet to see Babip have his first effective gank, but at the moment it looks like he's hiding in this bottom lane bush alongside Destiny.
If they can get a gank off before Edward gets his Alistar ultimate, it's basically a free kill. But that is also why UOL is sitting back at their turret in that bottom lane.
Yeah, playing very defensively there. The double pickaxe from Kai'Sa trying to get towards that Acathian Rain upgrade, evolution as quickly as possible. And the thing about Mammoth here is they're saying, oh, okay, we can't get the kill, that's fine, we'll just go for Dragon Pressure. We know we have 3 players on this side of the map, it's very easy for us to push towards this first objective.
I mean, thinking about just the way the lanes are playing out, they're winning mid lane with the Syndra against Nomans' Corki as he's trying to scale up. They're actually definitely winning bot lane. They have the shove on Inax basically the whole time. But it's this top lane that's going to be pushed in that UOL is trying to capitalize on. Echo very good at turret diving once he's 6.
Teleport coming in. Fudge still has the flash. Boss trying to put the damage down with the Dominus. Ananasik going forward.
Careful for the ult!
Chrono break back, but Fudge was just at the edge of it, and now Ananasik will pay with his life. Triple gets the kill. Coming in with a TP.
Big outplay by Fudge right there. You could see the Echo shadow just daring him to take it, and it's a crisp sidestep right at the edge by Fudge, right at the end by Fudge's Gangplank, which also allows Triple to pick up that kill and narrowly pull Mammoth ahead in the gold.
Good TP call there from Triple to join the fight. They knew something was going to happen. Mammoth have been playing all down towards the bottom side of the map, as we said, taking the Drake, looking for the gank bot. And Unicorns of Love, we're not going to give it up without a fight, but here we go. We'll see this once again. You have to just look at how close Fudge was to getting caught by this chrono break.
Yep, so he makes sure he doesn't get caught by the first W. Also, UOL, I think, a little slow on that dive. You'd like to get the shield on Echo at first. And you saw how close that was on the chrono break to actually getting the kill. You got to watch out for it. And I think this now kind of asks a bigger question of what does UOL do? Because they're getting pushed in mid, they're getting pushed in bot. The lane they're supposed to play around was that top side because Fudge burned his flash early and gave over kill. But now that that gank has failed, it's actually Mammoth who's able to make the next play. They have flash ult on Skarner, and if they pull that off, they could take the first turret and start having an advantage.
It's been a long time since these two regions faced up against each other. It's IWCQ, the International Wildcard Qualifier in 2016, where Albus Nox took the win. Here, Mammoth trying to turn things in favor of the OPL, of the Oceanic region, who has definitely been the little brother of the two across the course of the years. Here, Unicorns of Love have tried to react to Mammoth pushing in this top lane by bringing up 3 players of their own, and Anasik was on a ward, now is on a control, and Mammoth should be aware that there is a jungler just waiting around the corner.
Yeah, doesn't decide to use Predator early, really just getting control from maybe a Rift Herald fight. I also find it funny. Clutch was the team that always just rotated everyone up to Rift Herald at 10 minutes.
Yep.
It's like Mammoth and UOL are in the Clutch group.
Yes.
So they say, you know what? Everyone play for Rift Herald around 10 minutes. Let's do the lane swap. We got to make sure that our bot lane is there in case there's a Rift Herald fight.
And like the logic behind it is very sound. If the dragon is down, there's nothing to fight over in the bottom side of the map.
It's true.
Rift Herald's up here. If you have more players there, you're more likely to get it. So you might as well increase the numbers you have on the top side of the map, play for it, and then look to try and take plates with the Rift Herald afterwards. Unicorns of Love, realizing that Mammoth had started it up, will just clear them out from the river for the moment, and it's all square once again in the river. Basically nothing between these two teams early on, 11 minutes in. It's been pretty even. Key carries we have to look at as the game does develop. How close is Fudge towards getting, 2-3 items on this gangplank? How far scaled into the game is he? Because Boss will fall off on the Renekton. He can still have impact in fights, but he's not going to be doing as much damage as someone like the gangplank.
Yeah, and I also want to see how Inax performs in middle late game team fights on a highly demanding carry. We saw on Heimerdinger against Clutch, he was effective, but it was really a disaster early on in the lane. They were just able to kind of hold on. So that will be a test later in the game.
You can see Boss trying to assert his dominance in the bottom lane, but Fudge is having none of it, just clears him out with a parlay, forces him back. Meanwhile, Nanasik is on his way. And
keep trying to dive him. Let's see if this one works.
Unicorns of Love have had the same strategy over and over again, but look at how much damage Boss took.
I mean, he just cleared the minion wave, and now has time to back off, you would think, unless...
Oh.
No, he's going to stand his ground.
Yeah, he stands his ground. Fudge is having none of this. He's not going to bow down under the Unicorns of Love charge, and Boss and Nanasik just both limp away back towards their tower. Yeah, Fudge, considering he's 17 years old, first time on an international stage, he's...
Yeah, especially when he kind of opts into getting first blood with how aggressive he went early to not tilt after that moment. I do think that it is actually UOL who is pressing too much on these gangplank dives. They're not in sync. They're not crashing with the minion wave. I mean, the way you want this dive to work is either the Echo... Generally, the Echo would actually go first, pick up the shield from his parallel convergence, then he gets turret aggro. At a certain point, you're going to force the gangplank W. Then you would stun on Renekton, Echo would ult back out, and it's like a clean dive. But they've never been able to sync it up with the correct minion wave or even the correct W placement. So not the best synergy between Boss and Nanasik.
And Fudge now has his Trinity Force on that gangplank, so it's going to be even harder to take him down without him returning the favor onto either Boss or Nanasik. Top lane is the place that most of Mammoths are playing. Not really being able to crack this Rift Herald as of yet, but you can see Babip's here, Triple's here. Everyone from Mammoth is really focused up towards that top side. And I wonder what Boss is going to do. He looks like he's going down towards the bottom lane once again, but it feels like the Unicorns of Love want to up the tempo just a tad, and Mammoth are very willing and content just to lay back, because they do have very good scaling in the form of the Syndra and the Tristana.
Yeah, and even after UOL beat Clutch in game one, Edward tweeted about, hey, we normally play a lot faster on stage, gonna look to fix that for our next game and get back to our aggressive tendencies, but the opportunities haven't really been there, even though they're trying to force stuff, as Mammoth is playing quite defensively, especially around the GP, and just setting up and not taking too many risks.
Do you feel like the Unicorns of Love need to force stuff? Are they on a clock, on a timer? Because they do have some good scaling options, and Corki and Kaiser work well in mid-late game team fights.
I think it definitely depends on the execution. I don't think there is a hard lose if they hit a certain point, just because they have Kaiser Corki, right? But then the other team has GP and Tristana, so it's a bit of a wash in my opinion.
Oh, Destiny did have to flash away just a moment ago. Here comes the Valkyrie. Edward flashing forward. Triple cord out. Can't get away. The suppression comes down, but that's not going to be enough from Babin. He's going to have to run back towards the tower. Fudge has teleported in as well. He's in the midst of 5 now with the cannon barrage coming down. King jumping forward, trying to get to Inax, who flashes the wall. King flashes after him, though. Will take him down. Now King needs to jump back across. Boston and Anasik on the chase, and Unicorns have won the fight. They destroy Mammoth in the river.
And it actually ends up being a 2-for-2, all things considered.
Two for two?
Yeah, because Babip walked away. I think it was 1 kill to 1.
I thought Babip went down.
That fight was a mess, though. So absolutely possible for that to happen. But UOL wins the fight in the sense they have map tempo. But once again, Mammoth doesn't want this to stop. Triple's back. He could go for it.
And Anasik does have the ultimate here. Boss going to look to slice and dice across the wall, but the scatter of the weak hits onto an Anasik. He has to jump back. No men's in there. Boss off towards the side already, and Anasik has fallen. The rift out so low. Babip here has the smite. Should be able to secure this pretty easily. We have crested the 14-minute mark, so those turret plates aren't the target, but the rift held will be taken. Mammoth with about a 400 gold lead coming out of the back of all that.
This game has yet to break open, even though it's possible. And the way that fight kind of developed, it kind of had shades of a lot of previous OS Worlds appearances where things are looking good and then they're just completely disorganized when the fight actually happens, because Triple gets caught out by the package and then with no flash is caught, and then you're wondering, okay, Skarner, this is going to be one of those things where it's one after the other. You look at Fudge, he teleports in, his team's not there at all. But right there, King finds the pick onto Inax's Kaisa, executes him, and is able to get out. And that just distracts the rest of UOL so much that also allows them to take down Edwards. So even though it felt like UOL had a way better initiation, they don't get the result. They end up losing the war, so to speak, because when they went back to the Rift Herald, they lost their jungler and the Herald.
Yeah, a chaotic fight. Confused me, to say the least. Never mind the players in the game. Babbitt's here's going to get the second dragon of the game. It's an Ocean going across towards Mammoth. And they can see how they do these next steps, because they've got the Rift Herald now. They can crack one of these towers open. Yet to have a turret fall in this game, coming up towards the 17-minute mark. But now you have Trinity Force, Infinity Edge finished on King. You've got Ludens on Triple, and Unicorns of Love are in an okay position in terms of itemization, but you haven't got a fully sacked Manamuna. You haven't got the second item completed on Inax yet. No Man's does have his Trinity Force, but it looks like Mammoth are looking for a play towards him, down
he's
towards
flashless.
Flashless. Babbitt, yeah, just yanks him right back into the Unleashed power. The dredge line hits as well. Babbitt almost falls, but Mammoth will take the kill. And I expect Babbitt to use the Rift Herald down towards this bottom lane as well. Charge that one up, and charge towards the tower.
Yeah, Babbitt misplayed that because he was about a half-second early and got turret aggro when he didn't have to. Nearly cost him the kill, but he ends up getting away with that one. So good crash there by Mammoth to be able to take down the first turret of the game with that Rift Herald and end up picking kill. They'll get a charge onto this one at least, but likely won't be able to stick around for the turret team.
Yeah, I think a Nanasik should be able to get across here in time, as you say. Triple just backing away. Doesn't want to risk getting caught out, even though they have okay vision in the blue side jungle of the Unicorns of Love. The Rift Herald will put quite a lot of damage down, and
real close.
Almost.
Are they gonna get it?
Might go down. That's 2 towers for the Unicorn, for Mammoth, sorry. And about 1,000 gold lead for them coming up towards that 20-minute mark. But you have to look at next steps now. Yes, you cracked open that bottom side of the map. How are Mammoth now going to use that? You're looking for picks with Babbitt. Predator running straight on towards the Unicorns of Love. If he can get there, if they can catch someone out, you then have a huge amount of follow-up damage onto that single target with the Unleashed power. So Mammoth will want that vision control. They'll want to try and catch one player from Unicorns out. And if they can't do that, Unicorns can continue to scale up with this Kaiser and Corki.
Yeah, might see another Predator gang coming shortly from the Skarner if UOL ever tries to set up. And if they're if you're comparing Mammoth's macro to a lot of world-class teams, that would be one place you could look and call it a bit of a weakness. So it's not a certainty that they can take a small lead and turn it into a big lead. Sometimes their side lane control is a little bit weak without being able to take advantage on the other side. You see here, it's like 3 people are down bottom lane, and Mammoth isn't getting any type of turret damage. But if they can get a kill here, maybe they'll turn something into it, and I think they have.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy for them. But Babip isn't even going to burn his impale. It's another kill for Mammoth up towards the top side. As you say, it is about what they get out of that, right? The wave is all the way pushed towards their tier 2. They're not going to be able to break open that tier 1 in the top lane. And looks like Edward here.
He wants something.
Hex flash. Will he go in? Mammoth playing incredibly safe. Fudge on his way up. Here goes Edward in with a Hex flash. Parallel conversions off towards the bottom side of this. But so far, Echo has done some work. Hasn't done as much. Perhaps you'd want. No Man's gets hit with a depth charge. Babbitt gonna help King just put in a little bit of chip damage, and meanwhile Triple is able to get some time alone with that top lane tower. So the kill onto boss has actually paid off here for Mammoth.
Yeah, Triple is getting really big in this game as he's able to pick up solo turret gold. 8,800 gold, 1,200 more than No Man's. So tale of 2 games here. No Man's after dominating in game 1. Tristana versus Renekton here trying to play the Corki into Triple Syndra, and Triple kind of just roaming around on Syndra of all champs to pick up these kills and get a lead.
And this is what we tend to see from Mammoth. Triple is their key carry, tends to be ahead in lane, but they also put a lot of resources into him. He actually gets this 22.8% of his team's gold, which is the second for mid laners in the OPL, and 27% of the CS on the map between 15 and 30 minutes, which is, again, second for mid laners in the OPL. So they know that if they put resources into him, he tends to get them advantages and get some wins.
Yeah, and there's not a huge amount of stuff that UOL can use to close the distance onto Triple. It's, if anything, it would be a really good dive by Echo, but he's so far behind that he's been getting blown up if he tries to go in. So a pretty good position for Mammoth as they look to just put this group into chaos.
This group will be absolutely just all over the place if this happens. Remember, Unicorns of Love beat Clutch earlier. If Mammoth, the 3rd seed, then beat the 2nd seed, yes, Clutch, didn't have the best of performances, but you have to then wonder, how do Mammoth play into Clutch? How do we see when we get to the 2nd round robin who's going to beat who there as well? Because the top 2 teams do go through to the knockout stages. Now, Destiny looking for the engagement to Edward. Look at the damage coming out from the scan of the week. The jump in from Mananastick with a knockback with a buster shot, and now the re-engage coming out. Babbitt flashing forward, and that's a rampage for Triple. Valkyrie away from No Man's. He used the package to get the hell out of dodge, but Mammoth have already got their 1 kill, and they can push towards this mid lane tower.
All right, there's still a lot of ultimates up for UOL if Mammoth try to go too far because they burned all of their ultimates in that last fight. Edward might be going for something.
Hex Flash isn't going to go the way he wanted it to, and he's stunned up. He doesn't have the ult. Can't quite hit with the Dark Spear there, and Fudge just forcing Unicorns back. That mid lane tower has been opened up. The Unicorn's going to get just a little bit of chip damage back on towards Mammoth, but for now, Mammoth will reset, regroup with a 3,000 gold lead. They are well in control of this game.
They got to be feeling pretty good with those 5 kills onto Syndra and how they're routinely dodging out of these Echo engages and really keeping Edward flashless and ultless so the Alistair isn't able to go in for the reliable stuff, right? If Unicorns of Love had tempo, Edward would be able to dictate a lot of these things, but I feel like Mammoth is getting just enough to stop UOL from being aggressive, and then that's allowing them to wait on Skarner Flash and the Skarner ult to get the fights that they want.
It definitely is. Mammoth in such a strong position now. There's another Ocean Drake for them if they want it. It's not the most impactful, but you'll take it. You've got 1 in your back pocket. You've got a Mountain, helps you with that regen. And I want to bring attention to the amount of control wards that Mammoth are coming back onto the map with as well. They've got 2 in the inventory of Babbitt, Triple, and Destiny, and a spare on the side of King. Compare that to Unicorns of Love. They've only got 2 on their entire team. This gives Mammoth the opportunity to get total vision control around the Baron, around the Dragon if they want it. But, of course, you have to use those control wards well. So we'll see if they're able to do that in the next few minutes.
Yeah, and overall, I think they were wishing they were getting mountains, infernals, or clouds rather than oceans at this exact moment, just because there's not a huge amount of poke that comes out from UOL, and there's not a huge number of mana dependencies on Mammoth, so they're kind of just clearing the Ocean Drakes to try and get to the good ones. In 8 minutes, that infernal will be big, but if they get this shutdown, it's huge.
Lots of damage coming down, and that's the kill. Triple shutdown. No Man's will take it. Edward and No Man's in the right place at the right time.
We said they didn't have that many control wards, but they had the control ward where they needed to be over that wall.
That's where you got to be.
Big shutdown, and it also goes on in No Man's, one of the best scaling champs on their team.
We'll see how much that delays Mammoth, because that's the thing about this, is not, Unicorns won't be able to take too much out of this. You can steal away a blue buff, you can get a bit of chip damage on the tower, but really you're just stopping Mammoth from taking their next step and waiting for those 2-3 items complete. Already, Inax has got the Ginsus alongside the Manamune now, and you're building up towards a rapid fire cannon on the side of No Man's. When you get there, it makes it so much easier for them to get this extra chip damage, this extra little bit of poke down onto Mammoth before those fights really erupt.
Yeah, still absolutely anyone's game. It is interesting that only Inax has paid the Skarner tax with QSS, but we haven't necessarily seen Skarner be able to take over the game. So still some more forcing that you would want Mammoth to be able to do. But if we look at the map now, the control wards have been down and they've cleared out a lot of vision. So they're looking for picks around this Baron area, or they'd look to just take the Baron if UOL shows too many people in lane.
Boss down towards the bottom side, 2 people in mid here for the Unicorns of Love. Mammoth setting up for the fight. It has been 5 years since an OPL team beat a CIS team.
Wow.
The Gamescom in 2014, where Legacy took down the Dire Wolves. They lost to them in the end as well. They weren't even able to take them down across a series. They just got a single win against them. Mammoth trying to change fortunes that have been 5 years in the making here. Look at that vision control. This is what we talked about with the control wars. They have total awareness of the Unicorn's red side jungle. And now we'll see if they want to pull the trigger on the Baron buff.
Yeah, and there's actually no way for UOL to scout other than a Kai'Sa W right now, especially once Mammoth gets this mid priority. And then the Kai'Sa W is down. They could start it if they wanted to. It would be unlikely that UOL doesn't scout for a little bit, but yeah, they're going to try and catch UOL while they're scouting.
They are Mammoth on the front line. Babbitt's going to pull back Edward. Edward's not in the best of shape, still lands the knock-up. The Unbreakable Will's doing a lot of work, making him very tanky here, but Fudge flashes in. He's exhausted straight away. King takes down Edward, and there come the kills, rattling through one by one. And Ananasik is down, and here goes Boss into the middle of the frame, but he will fall as well as a double kill. And King is not done. Almost take down No Man's, but the Hex Drinker shield is enough, and now Inax can turn it back around. And King overstepped, overstayed. Too much greed from the bot laner from Mammoth means that he will fall. It means that Mammoth cannot do the Baron. It means that Mammoth cannot close out the game yet, and Unicorns will be able to hold on to hope.
Baron was guaranteed if King stays alive there, but he was thinking about the ace and taking over the game. He's their damage for the Baron that they needed. Gets outplayed when he goes in for the flash rocket jump at the very end, and that is something that could potentially tilt Mammoth after making what could have been a game-altering play. So they had set up this vision medic for the last 5 minutes. It's all we've been talking about. They get so much damage on Edward. They make it so UOL can't engage on the fight. They kill Echo with the beautiful Cinder ultimate. And then, right here, it's actually 5v2 with double Ocean and a Mountain if they just turn. But heals are still up on Inax. It keeps No Man's alive, so the execute doesn't kill him, so the rocket jump doesn't come back, and then Inax is able to kill him. They're going to reset this Baron vision and try for it again, but
They just go straight for it.
let's see if they get it.
So Boss is teleporting in. Unicorns of Love trying to make their final stand, trying to make the final play. No Man's
Hoping to
going
get in
forward.
for steal.
Hoping for a steal, they don't get it. Mammoth secure it. The Oceanic representatives take the first Baron of the game. 23 minutes in, they have a 4,000 gold lead, and now it's 5. They group up mid. Babbitt going forward. Boss does have his own flash. Will get away. Babbitt decides not to chase. There is an Infernal Dragon in 30 seconds, and it looks like Mammoth are going to play through bot lane and go for that Infernal afterwards.
And King can exhale. He's
Yes.
like, all right,
like,
I didn't throw the game. I didn't stop us from being able to win against the LCL for the first time in 5 years. Now the game is basically at the point of the one team fight into the Baron. They will just wait for this Infernal Drake, make sure they have 4. They'll still have enough time to try and make a push with this Baron.
But they will. It's a little bit of time just ticking off the clock off the Baron buff. Of course, you want to be as effective as you can with it. Getting the Infernal is great. I expect them to then look towards breaking one of these inhibitor towers. The resets will come through. We'll see King's at currently at 3 items, going for the Runans, and then the Hex Drinker here on the Tristana. Not too often that we see Runans, but definitely makes sense when you want to get that AoE damage down in team fights.
Yeah, maybe going for... I don't know, a little bit more wave clear. He already has the Hex Drinker for the defense. There's potentially multiple melees he'd want to be shredding. Usually the rubric I use for if Hurricane is worth it is if they have 3 melees, you would pick Hurricane. I don't necessarily consider Echo a melee, so this is a time where maybe I would say go with the Phantom Dancer or the Static Shiv, but really all the Zeal items are decent choices.
Definitely is. And you've got Sterex and Trinity Force complete on Fudge. Powerful combination on the Gangplank, not going towards the full damage Gangplank that we sometimes see with the Phantom Dancer second item, but continuing just to scale up. 3 items on triple as well. Mammoth trying to shut the door in the face of the Unicorns of Love here. 1.5 minutes left on the Baron, but still we haven't really seen them up the tempo yet. This has been a slow Baron. 2,500 gold gained off it.
Yeah, I don't expect these teams to be like perfect with their Baron buffs, especially kind of knowing what's at stake, having 4 games to decide whether or not their season was successful. They are probably just going to clear the outer turrets, and I'd be a little surprised if they're able to actually pull off an interior turret, unless we saw Skarner get a pick onto Corki or Renekton in terms of importance. Then they'd be able to push for a dive.
Still only 2 QSSs on the side of Unicorns. They've got 1 on Inax, 1 on a Nanasik. Neither Boss nor Nomans has decided that they want to pay the Skarner tax. The mid lane tower will fall, and as you say, doesn't look like Mammoth are going to go any further with this push, willing to wait it out. There's an Ocean Dragon in 3 minutes time. Basically, 3 Ocean Dragons gives you about a Warmog's worth of healing. So wouldn't be surprised if Mammoth just want to delay the game a tad, wait for that. But right now, Destiny may be looking for a flank position. Nomans on the front line has the package, but a special delivery of Destiny might be coming in here. Package doesn't get him away. Nomans doesn't click his W, and Mammoth happily accept the kill. And Nanasik's going to jump back in, but he is immediately done for. Edward yanked back into the team, yanked off the Summoner's Rift. It's a double for King. It's too easy for Mammoth. They're pushing in for the win.
Yeah, we said Nomads, well, as long as he doesn't get caught by the Skarner ultimate, they're going to be able to wait out this Baron, but he does, and it looks like Mammoth is going to start this group stage 1-0.
Boss trying to do what he can. Triple's flashed in. Inax locked up, and he's going to use the instinct already. Triple's down, and now Boss falling down very quickly as well. He gets the double kill. It's on King. He now needs to put the damage in, but Unicorns of Love have been able to defend.
They might hold.
Boss going to heal up. It looks like they might hold, but King is on the Nexus Towers. That Tristana has a huge amount of damage. He's on the second now. Boss and Inax going to step forward, and Mammoth cannot close it out. They went too deep. They went too greedy, and they can't close the game right now.
It ain't over till the Nexus falls. Boss comes in with the clutch double kill to keep them in this game, and you always wonder how nerves will factor in after those things happen. So far, Mammoth has always answered the call, but that felt like it should have been over.
It definitely did. Mammoth were knocking on the door, Triple flashing in at the end here. I'm sure we'll see it again, but here, this is just Nomad not pressing W.
Yeah, he would need to press W now, because once that hook lands, it is a CC lock for the duration, and he did not have the reaction time of that hook from Fog. And then an Echo that's behind is just a sad dude, because even if he can ult back, it's just into the other team anyway, and he dies. So here, with the 3 kills, you think, all right, it's for sure done. And honestly, I was ready for the Nexus moment at this point. Let's watch again how Boss's Renekton is able to pull this off, because you don't expect him to be able to get a double kill. I think Inax got a lot of damage down well, and his Triple, who actually flashes forward going for the execute, misses it in turret range. None of that had to happen. If they just sat back, grouped properly, and sieged the turrets, when Renekton comes in, they all could have turned in focus. But when you flash forward for that type of play, you're exposing yourself, and I think that's a misplay by Triple.
Yeah, all it takes is a scatter the weak as he tries to slice and dice towards you, and then he can't get on your team.
Yep.
King opens up. It's pretty easy. Destiny's there to CC lock him as well. Edward has snuck into this top lane bush as with 40 seconds left on the Baron. Unicorns of Love are trying to see how they get back into this game. It's still a mountain for them to climb. They are 6,000 gold behind, 4 dragons to 0. Fudge has got his Essence Reaver now, and Edward's still in the flank position. Do you wait here for 30 seconds? Do you wait here until the fight begins?
Yeah, he's going to wait here for a while.
I mean, cows are used
I don't
to
know
being
what
out for pasture, so that's maybe he's cosplaying.
I don't know what he's going to wait for. He's going to be going for a flank here as Yoel is going into river, and it's...
Oh, it's a flank on Babbitt.
Yeah.
Is that who you want to knock into your team? Apparently it is. Babbitt gets knocked in. Boss on the front line. Babbitt down to half HP already, and perhaps the flank was next level. 4D chess being played here by Edward. Everyone else is playing TFT, and Edward is just in next week with how intelligent that play was. I'm very surprised it worked as well, but you got to give him credit where credit's due.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the type of stuff you're trying to pull out when you're down 4 Drakes and 6K gold. Fudge is also now pretty deep in enemy territory and has got to make a retreat. Yoel's going to be on the hunt. Mammoth has got to make sure this game doesn't get out of hand.
You said it during the mid game when we saw that really messy fight around mid. You were like, this tends to be how OPL games go. They look really good, really composed for a while, and then they get super messy. That was super messy. Part of that is Unicorns of Love making it as messy as they can with Edward getting the flank position off, but then why is Fudge behind enemy lines? Why are they playing like this? Just set it up once again. You've got mid in here. You can push for the Ocean Drake if you want it. Make sure the Elder Drake is a win condition. Then go towards the Baron. You can be in a very good position here as Mammoth.
Yeah, I think Fudge's gangplank has looked generally strong. King is hitting close to full item 80 carries, and they do have the Drakes and gold lead. So Mammoth would have no reason to panic. However, there have been 2 very key moments where it is clear they have gone for the big play. Actually, 3 big moments where they've gone for the big play and failed. Fudge's first blood, King's rocket jump flash in mid lane, and Triple's flash at the Nexus turret. So there are definite nerves coming in for Mammoth in what could have been a much more decisive victory had they not gone for those overreaches. So they need to be very careful throughout the rest of this game to make sure they close it, because losing is one thing, but losing in a fashion where you over-regress on what would end up being 4 occasions if they make another one and end up losing the game could potentially just tilt them for the rest of the group stage. So I think Mammoth is in a good position, but you always have to wonder who's going to win this game.
30 seconds left on the mid inhibitor for Unicorns of Love. They now can step forward. They don't have to worry too much about those super minions pushing in. And Anasik clearing out vision. Control wards in the inventory of Mammoth once again. Want to see them use that vision setup like they did before. The Unicorns already caused 1 upset today, although this at the start of the game wouldn't have been counted as an upset. Right now, for them to win, this is an upset in my opinion.
Yeah, Unicorns could be a part of 2 upsets in the same day. We would see, though, because Unicorns is hanging in there, and the vision control we saw earlier had been absent, but now with some mid priority, they're starting to get it back. Still 3 control wards in slot and 3 disabled wards inside the Baron pit. Mammoth going to be looking for that next pick, but there's more QSSs being picked up by UOL, so that Skarner is getting lower and lower relevance as this game continues.
Yeah, No Man's has one now. We saw him get caught out in the mid lane previously. He doesn't want that to happen again. Mammoth have pushing in the bottom lane. Top wave is pushing towards them. Unicorns of Love just continuing to delay the game. Almost completed items on Inax. Sitting at 4 right now. 4 on the Corki as well, or 3.5. Now Mammoth have started up the Baron. Boss is down towards the bottom side. Unicorns of Love. Do they fight it?
King hit a ward, so that revealed him temporarily, and you all know they're on this Baron.
Here we go, Baron being started. Mammoth just turned straight onto Boss. It was a bait. What was a bait? Mammoth, that was beautiful. And Boss has to slice and dice his way away. Edward in the middle of all of Mammoth now as they try and take the fight. But look at the damage onto Anasik. He's done. That's 3. Mammoth with an absolutely beautiful play around vision. You were confused. I was confused. But Mammoth knew exactly what they were doing. They ace Unicorns of Love. And they will not make a 4th mistake today. They are looking for that Nexus.
Surely they kill the Nexus this time. Yes. I'm willing to say they're going to kill the Nexus this time, Medic. What a way to end it. Hitting the ward and then immediately pulling off to catch the flank TP from Boss. Sets them off on the right foot for this team fight, and they will win their first game of the play-in stage.
5 years in the making. Mammoth take down Unicorns of Love. Their first win, and what a group we have now in Group A. That is a spicy, spicy one to say the least. And that play at the end, that was composure, that was intelligence on a stage that you didn't expect to see after how many mistakes Mammoth had made during the game.
Exactly. We know that they do have a few issues with their macro. We know that OS has a history of choking on the international stage, at least how they describe it, and they have to constantly play this game of, well, were we choking or are we bad? Believe me, I'm familiar with that game. It sucks to play. But in this game, they were able to pull through, and they make this group so interesting.
So interesting now. Clutch sitting at 0-1, Unicorns at 1-1, Mammoth at 1-0. Of course, the top 2 teams go through, but you want that top spot. You don't want to be facing the likes of Damwon, the likes of Splice, likes of Hong Kong Attitude or Loki, whoever makes it out of Group C. You want to be in that seed 1 if you can. And Oh, Sheepy looking at it from behind stage. There were moments
That one
in
hurts.
yeah, that one hurts. Because there were
Yeah.
moments in that game where you thought you were coming back.
Yeah, Medic, we've been talking a lot about Mammoth because the upset is the story, but thinking about UOL, they were the upset story an hour and a half ago.
Yep.
So really, it's almost one of those classic letdown games where they see Clutch as this opponent that they need to beat to prove themselves, to get first in the group, and then to immediately run into the Mammoths and take their first loss of the group stage, effectively almost canceling out the advantage they would have had from that Clutch game. In Sheepy's face, I could feel like I could see it in his face there. It just makes the rest of this group so cool.
And as much as we talk about double round robin, that's still only 4 games that you actually get to play. If you're losing one of that, it's 25% of your games just down the drain. And it's very tough. That's what the world stage is like, you know, that you have to perform in every single game if you're going to make it far at Worlds.
Oh, okay. So just thinking about the rest of this day, we're going to get to see Mammoth versus Clutch as well. That's still the game
I'm
that's
looking
left
forward
in
to
this
that game.
group
It's gonna be
later.
great.
So definitely stay tuned for that one because that gives Mammoth the opportunity to be top in
Is
the
it
group.
Tanner time or is it Tusks up? That's the question.
Yeah.
That's Mammoth's expression, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't just make that up.
You could have.
I could have.
No, but it's real.
Raise your koalas, I believe, is
Yeah.
the general OP
Well,
spam.
NA will be waking up.
Yes.
So it'll be closer to Tanner time, effectively.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good sign for Clutch.
If they usually scrim at 10 in the morning, we're getting towards that point where it's going to work out for them.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if Clutch can sort of overturn some of the misfortune they had earlier in the day. Because Unicorns played that game very well, but there were some very obvious mistakes from Clutch as well that I'm sure they wouldn't have wanted to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're definitely seeing day one jitters from a lot of these teams, but we're also seeing some really big plays. Like teams have definitely came to make big plays. They've came to bring out crazy picks, Heimerdinger, and most of those things are being rewarded as well. So I can't wait to see more.
Well, we'll keep seeing more, but for now we're going to hand it over to Dracos, who's standing by with King.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I am now joined by King. King, when we saw the group draw, as OPL fans usually do, it was doom and gloom. Pretty much every time when it comes out. However, showing up, smashing Unicorns of Love, feels like it set you guys off on the right foot. How do you guys feel about the team performance?
I sort of disagree with that first part. I agree. I think that group draw was one of the better ones that we could have got. Yeah, I thought Unicorns were probably going to be the best opponent we could get for the pool too. And I think we showed that, we're good against them.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely did. I think there were a few moments, a few hiccups, but otherwise it seemed like smooth sailing for the team. Yeah, we know what I'm talking about, Mr. Buster Shot. But focusing in, you've played with guys like Destiny before, guys like Triple, and it's never really worked out. It hasn't transitioned as well to the international stage. What makes this team, what makes Mammoth different?
I think we have a lot of, our team's very well balanced. People think Fudge is going to be like the carry player for our team, but I feel like everyone in our team is really strong. I think as opposed to the previous Star Wars rosters, we don't have a very okay, this is our key player. You guys can just target him and shut him down. But I think everyone on our team is really, really good. I think that's the difference between this Mammoth roster and the other ones.
Shows a little bit in the Gangplank dives top and the team fight coordination that we saw coming out from you guys in the end. And now, not to build the hype train too much, but as a final question, is this the year that we finally see the OPL, not the Bombers, not the Chiefs, not the Direwolves, but the Mammoth, make it into the group stage?
I think this is the best chance we have. This year is the best chance we have, yep. And I think we definitely have what it takes to make it there.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much, King, for taking the time. We'll send it over to the analyst desk to break that one down further.
Thank you very much.
The most well-rounded oceanic team in the history of the OPL comes to world stage, takes game one, and the koalas, Trevor, are well and truly raised.
They absolutely are. Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk. As you can tell, Spawn is very justifiably excited and happy after that victory from Mammoth.
I'm stoked after that win, and the reason is because they just played such a well-balanced comp. As we said, this team can attack you in multiple ways. However, it has been leave it to scaling, but with a more proactive mid laner, with the aggressive support coming out. Mammoth had multiple times where they could have ran away with that game and blew you all out. Now, that didn't happen. They still had to rely on some scaling, but at least they are giving themselves so many options to win this game.
I think for me specifically in this game, I loved Triple and the lead he was able to build up throughout that game through his roaming primarily and a lot of those skirmishes they took in the mid game, but also Fudge and his ability to just absorb all that pressure in the top lane. I mean, Unicorns of Love would not let this man breathe, but somehow he's able to defy them over and over.
And the thing that I really liked is the very, very first almost kill in the top lane from Fudge into Boss. The confidence to flash forward. I think you said got Boss down to 11 HP. It didn't
Yeah, it was
work
pretty
out.
close. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, when you take a look at the willingness to take big plays on the big stage. Remember, we're talking about a 17-year-old that is in his first split. You know, the potion comes through, the health is ticking down. Ultimately, it leads to Fudge dying. But I think that Mammoth must look for these kinds of plays if they're going to come out of this group.
Yeah, and you saw Unicorns of Love continue to try and force these plays on top of them. And this play in particular, I think, was actually a huge miss by them. No Man's was recalling, and he had the opportunity to try and pick up a package, maybe TP into this fight. Instead, it is Triple responding with the teleport underneath the tower, and then this dive just goes horribly, horribly wrong for the Unicorns of Love because they don't have the burst damage in one rotation of their spells to actually kill the gangplank.
And this is what I was going to say. The reason I don't like the Echo is that he does not bring as much upfront burst damage as the other mages do. If that is a Gragas with an ultimate, that is a kill. If that is a level 6 Elise, that is probably a kill through the execution and an escape through the repel. AP junglers must be able to go with the early AD solo laners, otherwise it just does not work.
And I think the caveat here is yes, when a target is 100% HP, a Lee Sin or an Elise do a much better job at fully bursting someone down, but the Echo is probably the best champion when it comes to diving and cleaning up kills under towers because he can ultimate out and reset aggro. He doesn't have that big DPS ultimate in these situations, but he does have the out tool. So if they're going to make these plays happen, Boss needs to whittle the GP down lower like we saw in that first dive,
Elise
and then
has
it's so
the
much
out tool
easier.
as well. Just play Elise. Like, I am really not sold on this pick. If it's the out tool, the ability to live through these dives, there is a better AP mage from what I have seen so far that has not been touched so far this group stage.
It has been 3 games. We need to see a few more cases, and I love the debate. I do want to shuffle us along, though, because one of the statements you said a moment ago was that Echo's not the champion that's going to be able to, pop in there, or it was Ender was saying it was very good at cleaning up. I want to bring us back to Triple, because Triple cleaned up nearly every single fight. There was a period in that mid game where it looked like UOL were donating kills to him over and over. Triple moved around the map, picked up a whole bunch of kills, and then he was just insta-gibbing kids in the mid to late game.
Oh yeah, he was just absolutely slamming people because he got that double magic penetration build. It became very easy to just run down the Unicorns of Love. And I think what Mammoth showed, especially in this mid-game period, was just a much better ability to play side lanes. I think Unicorns of Love were spreading themselves thin on the map and not respecting strong weak side. Whichever side of the map Triple was on, that was the weak side for Unicorns and the strong side for Mammoth. And Mammoth were continually able to abuse that to get more and more kills onto this guy until it comes to the culminating team fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the impressive thing here was that Triple had some uncharacteristic mistakes, some missed scatter of the week. You know, a couple of all-ins that didn't necessarily go his way. He was showing the jitters, but the fact that they continue to once again look for those plays, to continue to set up, that just shows that this Mammoth lineup is different from Oceanic lineups, because in the past we have panicked, we've been jittery. The jitters were there, but the
recovery was
the
great.
recovery, the resolute gameplay was still apparent.
You are so excited.
I am very excited.
Listen, this is, of course, the Oppo player of the game. Congratulations to Triple on the Syndra. Now, just before we move on to the standings and the impact this has on the group, let's not kid ourselves. There was numerous times Mammoth tried to
give
throw
that game
this
back,
game away. There was a few misplays here and there. Also, Unicorns of Love did not have the same sort of early game impact, or they didn't really have that same aggressiveness. I think Jack called it out in the game as well. Edward is even tweeting saying, we want to pick the tempo up. So both of these teams still a little shaky, maybe still finding some of their legs here in day 1 of the play-in stage. But that was the 3rd ever win for an Oceanic team that has competed in play-ins. Oceania has played in the play-in stage 3 separate times, and that was only the 3rd ever win. And Mammoth will be playing Clutch Gaming later today. They might be able to double the Oceanic wins forever if they can take down Clutch later today.
Also, potential stat check. I think if you go back, a lot of the other ones are also day one, first game wins as well. So it's not over yet by any stretch of the imagination.
Let's take a quick look at those standings, because as I've already mentioned, 1-1 for the Unicorns of Love, 0-1 for Clutch, and now Mammoth sitting at the top. They will play Clutch in a couple of games.
Who would have thought that, you know, again, there's still the Mammoth Clutch game, but that right now, Mammoth at any point, we're going to be #1 in this group. I think that is a very low percentage of people. But I do think that there are a lot of question marks coming in here. I mean, a lot of people had huge complaints about the Clutch draft in game 1. I thought that was super disrespectful. So I personally think that they will bounce back. But then also, I was a little bit more excited about the Unicorns of Love, but I think some of the lack of mid-game fundamentals were shown in this game, and that actually makes me much more cautious about them. I think Clutch's mistakes are easier to fix than the problems we saw with Unicorns.
Well, we will find out a little later today. Analysts, internet, Twitch chat, Oceania, I invite you to raise your koalas in favor of Mammoth. Coming up next, Isurus Gaming start their Worlds run against Detonation Focus Me, who are looking to bounce back. Raise those koalas, everyone.
King jumping forward, trying to get to the Inax, who flashes the wall. King flashes after him, though. Will take him down. Now King needs to jump back across. Boston and Anderson on the chase, and Unicorns have won the fight. Edward's not in the best of shape, still lands the knockup. The unbreakable wheels doing a lot of work, making him very tanky here, but Fudge flashes in. He's exhausted straight away. King takes down Edward, and there come the kills, rattling through one by one. Package doesn't get him away. No Man's doesn't click his W, and Mammoth happily accept the kill. And Nanisic's going to jump back in, but he is immediately done for. Edward in the middle of all the Mammoth now is to try and take the fight, but look at the damage onto a Nanisic. He's done. That's 3. Mammoth with an absolutely beautiful play around vision. You were confused, I was confused, but Mammoth knew exactly what they were doing.
The new Oppo Reno 2 quad camera. Zoom into imagination.
Welcome back to Berlin, hosts of the world's 2019 play-in stage. It's time to meet the final team competing in Group B. Coming all the way from the Liga Latinoamerica, it's the year-long regional champions, Isurus Gaming! Let's hear it one more time for Isurus Gaming as they hit the rift for the first time here at Worlds 2019.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Atlas, joined by Ejim. They've got the Oceanic duo together here after that mammoth victory.
It was a banger.
Both in name and in the way it happened. Absolutely amazing. How do you feel, Bryce? I know we need to be talking about this next matchup, but this is an OS win. How are we doing?
It's just hope, you know what I mean? Hope on first day for Oceanic fans has been a little bit of a rocky road in the past, but you heard the interview, right? Like, King is feeling good about the victory. Mammoth, they are looking good, and yeah, super happy to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to have that debut of Isurus Gaming as well. A team that disappointed a little bit on the MSI stage, going 0-3 on their first day and then managing to pick up some victories after that. This is a squad that's the culmination of Latin America South and North, and our buddy Spawn is pretty hot on these guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. For Isurus Gaming, like, to take a look at things big picture, right? This is the first year where the two LATAM regions, they combine forces, making the Super League, as you will, and Isurus takes the best parts of the North and the South, and they have the veterancy, they have the new blood in Warangalis and the bot side. They're a very interesting team and in a very interesting group. It's kind of the way that the draw show unfolded. We have the hyper-aggressive groups with all the Asian regions, but then you have Splice, you have Dead FM, and you have Isurus. They'd like to slow it down much more.
Yeah, and Isurus looks like the same team on paper, but behind the scenes, Yeti has come onto this squad as the head coach, and he has always been the Latin America North god, the man that's been able to create these superstar teams such as Lion Gaming that was so strong. Is that going to be the difference maker here?
I think it certainly could be, right? Like, if you look at their regional performance domestically in split number one, Isurus Gaming from 4th made the victory, but were kind of unexpected there. But Yeti has been on teams with Oddie, with Saya, the big names from this region before, and here today, honestly, that's a big boon. The pickup Dead FM already starting the series off here in 0-1. They're looking like the favorites coming in.
Well, we'll see whether Isurus can play up to expectations already. The bans have come through Aurelia and the Yasuo, and the Lucian being taken away by Detonation Focus Me, Isurus Gaming, to get rid of Ceres's Heimerdinger, the Thresh, and the Pantheon that we haven't seen so far this play-in stage. And what is going to be the first lock in? The Echo first pick.
0-3 currently. Analyst Desk had a few words to say about it. Echo coming in as a hot favorite into Worlds 2019, but hasn't seen the greatest amount of success. But I will say, like, taking a look at the stuff that's being hovered right now, Teemo actually not a troll pick there for Bugax, has pulled it out in playoff series, but going up into Detonation Focus Me, they are a little bit of a weird team. The Heimerdinger, the Pantheon was kind of played before it was cool. Now we are in a patch where everybody kind of considers it broken. Absolutely 100% ban rate here, but getting through with it, Ezreal and Gragas locked in for Isurus.
Now, I find this really interesting. I'm glad Jake brought it up on the desk. Good old Spawn back there saying, we haven't seen the Elise. Feels like she's been replaced by the Echo. If I had been casting any other games back in Korea, of course, where I'm from, this would have been a Renekton Elise follow-up immediately. But it doesn't actually happen, and instead we are able to go back to Detonation Focus Me after the Ezreal and Gragas lock-ins for the Lovers duo, though, on the bottom side of the map. The Rakan and the Xayah coming in, and the Rakan ants are going to be there with the Leona.
And I think this is sort of weird, right? Like, you can take a look at Leona into the Rakan.
So.
Like, that is a tried and true matchup you see with a different AD carry that makes a lot of sense. This is a bottom lane that, as I mentioned earlier, like, Isurus likes to play around them. Warangalis gets a lot of resources down there, so it makes sense to lock down like a Leona lane. The counter pick is good, but pairing it with an Ezreal is not something you would have expected here, but maybe just hedging their bets. You know, scaling is fine going up against something like the Xayah Rakan.
Yeah, I feel like the Leona was more of a pivot pickup because they saw the Rakan right there, and you can follow him around when he's battle dancing his way to success. What I would love to see from Detonation Focus Me is for them to actually flex this Echo properly. I mean, last time we saw the theoretical Echo mid coming in with the Nocturne there, and then that was switched over. Vidius very excited in the caster lounge, of course, not the item build, but when it got picked up, definitely a good thing there for him. I want to see it actually flexed here. I want to see them make sure that they get this Echo into a position where they really want it. As the Nautilus, the Nocturne has been banned by Isurus Gaming.
So
what
surprising
a better way to get rid of it.
That one's going to hit the bench. But talking about like the Echo Flex, right? Like specific matchups, this is playable. I will also note that Seros, back in the LJL, was playing this pick like much like the Pantheon. He played it in old school matchups before the most recent buffs in the mid lane. And those matchups like the Syndra, we just saw that game with Mammoth locking in the Syndra. The flex was available. It does really depend on this pick right now, what they want to lock in for Saya if they do choose to pick his champion. That like Echo, could it be an option? Maybe.
We're going for Nobles here on Isurus' side as the Garen being hovered. Probably not going to get locked in as the Gnar is going to be picked up. Bugak's is going to be able to grab that for the top side, picking it away from Evi more than anything else. We saw Evi doing that to Vizicachi earlier on today, and now it's going to happen once again.
Evi's got 11 plays domestically and was the Kennen matchup. And it was kind of that weird team fight, right? Like around the bottom side of mid lane where Gnar gets a huge ulti back onto multiple people, then Kennen does exactly the same thing. So you see the power in this pick already. Kale's been banned today, but...
Yeah, and Kale has been a favorite for Evi as well domestically. He's had a few games on it so far, and that was in summer, of course, so relatively recently. And Kale has gone through a few changes over the last 3 patches. We'll have to see how it's going to do here as Seros is going to lock away the Karma, one of his favorite picks, of course, in the mid lane over in Japan.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting, right? Karma received a couple of nerfs recently. Less interesting, the Rise, but...
This composition is probably the least interesting. It's the classic Rise-Gnar combination. We've been seeing it for many, many years. Looking over the other side, though, you've got the craziness of the Kale and maybe an Echo that can win a game.
Yeah, maybe I hope so if you're a LJL fan here. But let's take a look at some of the picks specifically, right? The Kale you mentioned, Jat was saying earlier, kind of easing the burden. Kale has always been like a late game super monstrous champion, will take over everything on the Rift, and getting extra range early kind of eases the burden. We saw with a Gnar pick and then the Kennen from Vizicachi earlier today, like the range matchups do deal with it best, and then we'll just become like a huge side lane threat that can actually group, right? Like you look at the side laners that do successful things. The Camille, if she gets a flank off, can one hit and 80 carry. Kale is just bonkers, right? If he gets to his items, there's no doubting that Evi will be a force to be reckoned with. And when they lock in the Karma, the Rakan, these 2 shield-based supportive champions can just press the E buttons on his head and let Evi right-click some champions. Honestly, if the game is going to be slow, that's a good strategy.
Yep, well, we'll see how the Kale is going to do. Of course, change so that she's a little bit stronger early and a little bit less oppressive in the latest stages of the game. A little bit compressed, one could say, as far as how she's going to go flatten. A much better way to do it. Thank you very much, Ejim. So, by the way, when are you coming to the LCK? You can teach me some words over there as well, my friend.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
I'll be Baby Smithy.
Yeah, we're gonna need Baby Smithy. I'm gonna be recruiting as many of you as possible over the course of these play-ins. But Isurus Gaming versus Detonation. Focus me. Let's get onto the Rift for our 4th game of the day.
And okay, this is going to be another Dark Harvest Echo pickup. A lot of people saw that as kind of one of the solo queue options, you know, get a couple of extra stacks, extra kills, can run rampant all over the place. Electrocute, a little bit more consistent, but this is going to be the second one we've seen of the day, so Steel following in the footsteps.
Okay, Audi getting a little bit of attention here from Evi. He's just going to throw out a bit of a love tap. Of course, the Kleptomancy coming in on the Kale. Standard banker build, and I don't think that a Gnar is going to be able to offer that much of a threat unless you go for the full laning Gnar build. Are we going to see Rage Blade? Blade of the Ruin King, crazy stuff from Bugak's? I don't know. I don't think so. Because he's going to have to play for teamfights and try and play around this Kale more than anything else.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. You do have options when it comes to the Gnar, right? You can go for the PTA, play much more aggressive. Like a jungler like Gragas can make things happen early. We've seen, and the analyst S was talking about it, like the comparison of Echo to Elise, the 2 mage junglers on the current patch. Elise, heavily early game, whereas Echo scales that little bit better. Gragas certainly has the advantage, but in looking at this comp from Isurus, you see a Leona, you see a Gragas, even a Rise, like the CC setup. Kale isn't really the region you're looking to attack, right? Like getting on top of a Zyra Khan, the Leona into this matchup can be super oppressive, so I would expect Isurus Gaming, traditionally they like to play around the bot side. That could be the play here versus Dedafen.
Yeah, and based on how these compositions have been put together, I'm looking at Dead FM and I'm seeing a lot of 4-1 options, given the fact that you are going to be most likely putting an Ardent Sensor on the Karma, and that way you've got Udapon in a great position on the Xayah to get damage down and to be safe in a siege scenario, and you put Kayle in that side lane. What are Isurus Gaming's options as far as answering the playstyle that Dead FM have put on the table?
Yeah, I think kind of a lot and kind of not, right? They do have like double side lane potential. They have the Ryze, they have the Gnar. As long as they don't get too far behind, Kayle will obviously be the difficult one to deal with, but Karma not so much. So 1-3-1, as you get into the mid game, like if you want to slow down the game, that is an option, absolutely. But in terms of like disengage, the one thing I will say, right, when you look at a 4-1 versus a 1-3-1, traditionally, it's about forcing, getting caught in the 3, the mid lane. Like, that is where you lose the game as the 3. And there's a lot of force on the other side. You have Echo, he's just, like, free as hell, right? He goes in, you can just R backwards. The commit is just not there. You have the Rakan in Gang's hands, and this is a guy that has been super big for this roster, right? He makes things happen for them, and Gragas is kind of all they've got.
Well, we'll see whether they can make that one work. The ganking duo, of course, of the Echo and the Rakan. Just thinking about the possible options there with CC lockdown and gap close is just terrifying.
Rakan just likes friends. He was released with Xayah, and then he likes a buddy to dive in first, and then he gets to go second.
Would you say that Rakan is the most extroverted champion that we have in the roster of League of Legends?
Extroverted?
Yeah, just likes to make as many friends as possible.
Maybe Ivan, though.
Oh, Ivan definitely is a
But his friends don't speak back, so it's a bit of a one-sided conversation.
And I guess the other one would be Yuumi, because hangs out with a lot of people. He's got a bit of an engage towards the bottom side, but it's slow. He's got the Eclipse there and also had the Aftershock, so not going to be taking too much. There's the turnaround, but Arcane Shift. Pretty good ability, despite the fact that it has lost a little bit of that cooldown.
Yeah, and it's an interesting 2v2, right? Leona obviously wants to keep doing this sort of stuff. Like, you get on top of the Rakan, the Q immediately. If he goes in, he kind of dies on the return once you hit that level 6 mark. But in terms of the junglers right now, Steel is down here. Gragas in absolute Narnia on the other side of the map. Like, looking for any forward plays right now for Isurus will be difficult. And not to mention the Combat Summit as well. They have the TP, they do have the Ignite. The Cleanse is there from Udapon, so just trying to keep himself safe, but Seiya maybe in a little bit of trouble here, but floating the correct side of the map.
Yep, he is going to be at least heading up towards his Vision and his Jungler. Speaking of junglers, Oddie is on the Gragas, and it's the first time we've seen it today. Of course, was nerfed in 9-19, which is probably good. He was extraordinarily dominant.
Super busted.
9-16, yeah. Busted as heck. I believe, was it you that coined the Better Lee Sin?
No, that was not me.
That wasn't you?
This is one of those situations where you would have loved me to say yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could have lied, couldn't you? Come on, man.
It's just not it.
No. So I think that was Jake talking to Spooks about that one. Gragas was certainly in just a state of a lot of happiness on 9-16. But do you think the nerfs have changed him enough?
Not particularly. Like, I'm not surprised to see him here. Definitely needed them, but certainly isn't out of contention by any means. Like, the rise of Echo changes things somewhat. The priority is a little bit out of whack, but certainly still a very good champion. Oddie is well-versed. Is actually one of his most played. That and Skarner over the course of the domestic season. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, this is a team that likes to play, like, around the lanes, is much more of a facilitative jungler. He gets stuck soloing a Mountain Dragon while his lane is pushing just because they play with the tempo, they play with the pressure, and don't look to force things super early, and this is exactly what's happening here today.
Yep, well, Evie is shoving in onto this Gnar over and over again, but yeah, has been completely drained of the mana. Boomerang Blade is going to land. Bugax just gets himself another grass proc and will send Kayle home. Not going to chase down at this stage, but Evie's done a great job so far. Only 4 CS behind, but does have that Klepto and is Kayle, which is the main thing that you've got to think about. Steel parallel convergence is in there, but Seiya is pretty comfortable. And if we have a look down the line when it comes to the farm, it's bottom side of the map for Dead FM that's looking absolutely fantastic, but elsewhere, it's pretty comfortable for everyone. And if this game stays even, who is that benefiting?
It's an interesting question, right? Because the comps do very different things. Yeah, like the Xayah Rakan, and you have the shield comp, can be super oppressive from ahead. Like, if this transitions, they get to 3 items, crit 80 carry. Yes, versus the Ezreal, like, there are engage options with the Leona, but it's definitely much more down to playstyle, right? Like, I think Isurus certainly want to be playing the map much more. Dead FM, they want to get to their item break points. They just want to shield heads, look for the team fights, and play much more around the objectives. Like, if this is a super slow game, and I was mentioning before, like, that is kind of what you expect and what we haven't seen yet in the World's play-in so far, but Yeah, like Rift Herald Prio, like Dragon Spawns. It's just an Ocean here today, not like an Infernal or anything, but certainly very good in the early game. But really nobody setting priority on it so far just yet. As I say that though, Dead FM linking up quite nicely. Jungler support looking for a bit of invade on the blue buff here.
Yep, and I think we should probably expect this quite often. Rakan and Echo, best friends crew, trying to get around the map and get opponents caught out unawares. But Steel is going to achieve his namesake here with the takeaway on the blue buff. Pretty good to deny that one from Saya. He's boom at the moment. Would have really liked the blue buff.
Feels actually pretty bad there. Gragas actually just shepherding a recall in the mid lane. Oddie and Saya, long-time duo. Given that Seros was just sitting there pushing, he has mana, and as you mentioned, Saya absolutely does not. Doesn't have TP either, but this does mean, with all the vision control they have on the bot side, a dive is coming. Oddie in the area.
Well, Steel and Seros are around, but Slow comes in from the barrel. Oddie's going to be safe and is just going to stand there as a living ward. Dogax gets the push back, and he's ahead by a few CS, but gang, are you going to be all right? Yep, should be fine. Steel is there in the river as well. So we got a lot of posturing so far as the Ocean Drake has been started. Good body slam comes in there as Steel doesn't necessarily know what he wants to be doing here as the Dragon's going to once again get upset. Phase dive over the wall, waits for it to come off cooldown. True shot barrage!
Flash ult!
Has to use the ultimate to get out of the way. He used the flash as well.
Yes! Flashed on the spot!
I feel like you only needed to use one of those as he dashes around and that Steel falling down. First blood going over to Oddie for ISG, but I have to feel like that was mostly a mistake.
Yeah, just a disastrous scenario. And I was going to say, that's like almost Tom Kench syndrome. Like, do I pop the grey health? Do I not? It was such a weird situation to be in. And he just panics, and Ezreal ulti comes flying in from stage right, flashes on the spot, ulti's back into danger, and Oddie bonks him on the head, cleans him up.
Yeah, I think that's a fat finger, if ever I've seen one. However, we don't necessarily know. We're going to have a look at it one more time as Steel, phase dive off cooldown, nice.
Yep.
And then,
that hurts.
It does.
That hurts. An Ocean Dragon, likely one of the worst dragons to be stuck in the pit with, you know? Even Oddie is popping it on the way out. The slow, the damage.
And also you get
friend.
nothing if you kill it.
Yeah.
It just feels bad all over the place. So, Isurus have been gifted a kill in this early game. Detonation Focus Me still have a composition that can recover from this. Not the end of the world by any means. 600 gold is going to be the lead here for Isurus Gaming after that first blood goes down. As Slow just walks at them. That's the flash. Daybreak does come down, but Unipon goes up into the sky. And Slow not going to be able to offer any more after Saya made his way down with the Realm Warp. They just wander out.
Steel.
Oddie finds a nice body slam. Steel getting taken down. Solo True Chopper again. Can't dodge it this time. Doesn't have either of those cooldowns, of course.
A sliver of a CDR bar there from the Echo ulti, and he cannot find it. So 2 times in a row, Latin American sniper here, cleaning up a couple of kills, and now Oddie finds his way to the Dragon. And I was going to say, this is kind of what you expect, right? The slow early game, you ding that level 6 mark, then you have the Rakan, then you have the Leona. Oddie himself is almost one-tapping the Echo. This is where the game really turns on, and Isurus already 2 kills and an Ocean Dragon. This laning phase is only getting better and better right now, and Steel just struggling to make an impact again on the Echo we see today.
Yep, probably going to see some sort of reset here from Isurus Gaming, but maybe we'll look towards Shelly for our next objective. Still going to be re-clearing his jungle here, and haven't seen any funny business just yet. Of course, Detonation Focus Me, they need to clean up their play, but otherwise things will be all right. Evie's just sitting there telling his team, like, guys, please don't feed. I'm KO. We're going to be fine.
Eventually, he's going to get there. But certainly is an eventuality a long time away. You can see, as you mentioned, maybe Rift Herald next on the cards. Absolutely is going to be the case. Reset from slow into instant Moby boots. Also has a Hex Flash, which I super like, especially in the bot lane 2v2. Like, you burn the flash, you burn the cleanse. They can just keep fishing for these fights that they wanted. So it takes a little trek onto top side towards the Rift Herald. For that Prio in the top lane, it is difficult to start straight away, but setting vision is definitely the first step, and ISG thinking about it.
Yep. I'm looking at this comp, and Saya, he's almost towards his Rod of Ages. Looks to be the first item that he's going to lock down. Going for that double scaling with the tier there, of course. We've seen a few rises recently opt away from the Rod of Ages, but Saya going full greed, which I respect.
And there is like the 2 different variants. The more standard one, then you have like the Righteous Glory, the tanker one. We saw actually picked into Saros on the Nocturne earlier today. Righteous Glory completed, gives you armor to deal with it. Could be an option here. There's not Actually, maybe not. There is a reasonable amount of AP damage, where Udapon being like the one big AP threat here, but Dead FM.
Yeah, it is a little bit dangerous. I mean,
bunch of shields.
Looking at what everyone has to be responsible for as we move into this game, I think this mid-game's looking really good for Isurus Gaming. They've got the Gnar ultimate that is so pivotal around a lot of these skirmishes that are in either Shelly's pit or the Dragons. In this case, most likely Shelly's. And then Rise can get to that machine gun stage, especially now that level 9 has been hit. Not necessarily able to get that shield anymore, but is still just a powerhouse when it comes to AoE damage.
Yeah.
And that's what this comp can do. They can keep people locked down or bring someone to them, and then a rune prism, whether it's a root or a slow, doesn't matter. It's going to be that kill setup anyway. So Oddie and Slow will have a lot of agency when it comes to deciding on what fights are going to happen, because the Rise and the Gnar are going to be so able to follow up. And then they don't need to worry about War Angelus because he can just self-peel.
He's just chilling. He's just chilling in the back. I think, interestingly, this game, right, like in terms of, yes, it's just slow. Okay, ulti for ulti. But Oddie is here. Predator has been popped. Flash like 5 seconds from cooldown, but they're still looking for the dive.
Yeah, we're going to find the barrel into the wall. Udapon underneath the turret now, as Isurus Gaming not going to go for the dive. Feathers are going to be pulled back. The teleport is channeled, and Saros makes his way down and stops his friends from being destroyed.
Yeah, and I was going to say, this map of League of Legends in this game has felt so big. The lanes are kind of just isolated, no roaming between the two, but Isurus, as soon as that hit the 13-minute mark, still looking for the return dive. No cast, but Oddie's in.
Coming down. The quickness was there, but it is not enough. Saros now is going to be the dessert. Can they actually grab it? Slow's going to go down for the good of the colony, and Saya misses the Q. Oh, no, it's a disaster. Saros with the outplay under the outer turret bottom lane, and the fadeaway jump shot barrel is not going to be enough, and the Mystic shot goes wide. What a disaster.
That looked like complete disaster there for Dead FM, but Saros comes up clutch. The Mantra W, so much healing off the back end, and multiple members just go down, dying to the turret.
Yeah. I think that was Athene's, because he got all of that health back instantly as well. Damn. All right, well, I mean, we were talking about potential tilters for Mammoth in the last game. That's a potential tilter there on the bottom side. We'll see whether Isurus Gaming can pull it back.
Yeah. And I think specifically for the map state right there, if that gank is successful, the dive happens, Isurus set that up very well. Like, the play by the playbook was very smart, very well thought out, just execution blundered, right? Like, they don't get the damage, Saros cleans up and it's fine, but Steel was on the other side of the map. There was no way he was going to be relevant in that play. Picking on Bugax and the top side, like, he's pretty safe, full HP, Mega Gnar, reasonably hard to dive. Evie and Steel could have made it work, but in a very slow game, it is like a game of inches. Like, what can you take? How much does that mean down the line for a champion like the Rise, for the Ezreal? And Saros standing tall here. It's definitely a big swing back for this one.
Yeah, let's have a look at it one more time from Saros' perspective.
Nice flash. Very, very good. Dodging out. Stutter step on the Rise. Q coming flying out. Dodges the Ezreal and the second one as well. Third onto the Rise. Saros on a Karma. This isn't an Akali, it's not an Aurelia just dancing all over the place. He's just fancy feeding all over Isurus, and
that's
sick.
Yeah, he certainly locked that one down. But you have to say that a lot of it had to do with ISGs. We've got another engage, Zenith play towards the bottom side. Great grand entrance there as Slow is being caught out, and he ain't going anywhere. Udapon locks down that kill as Angelus has to get out of there. Arcane Shift utilized, in comes Steel. Phase Dive is there, and he's going to be taken down as well, and Dead FM have come alive.
And the complete turnaround of the map. Yes, Steel will go down, but that was the 5-man commit to the bottom side. They want to make something happen. We are after 14 minutes. 15:30 on the clock means that plating is long gone. Turrets are fairly squishy, and actually looking for the return there. Slow and Angelus, they were looking for that play. Now Saya in trouble, gets knocked up underneath the turret.
Yeah, it's a disaster. Udapon's going to be able to grab that kill for himself, and now this outer turret should be falling down. Likely a trade, as Bugax is on the top side of the map, taking down the outer there as well. But when your mid laner dies at the same time and you're up against a Kayle, it is a really dangerous time to be Isurus Gaming here on this map. And here we go. This is full tank Gnar as well. They've understood that they need to play for these team fights, have some of that front line there and rely on the Ezreal and the Rise damage. But I'm worried that that's going to be enough when it comes to AD, because we were looking at Gnar as being able to augment the Ezreal that's very pokey, not necessarily a large amount of physical damage because it's so split amongst the magic and the physical. That is a full tank Gnar with the Sunfire Cape just completed.
And I think the bigger thing is, given the last 5 minutes of play, I've mentioned it multiple times, like how much defensive stats ZFM will opt into. The shields will be very difficult to break through when you mentioned Nah going full tank. He has a Sunfire, he's got a Raincoat, and Rise already sitting 0-2. He's a long way away from being relevant, and breaking through the Rakan, breaking through the Karma in the later stages. If you are like a defensive composition and the opponent like has to be forcing into you, it can be very difficult to break through that sort of Vanguard there. And yeah, as this one progresses, it looked good for Isurus in the early game, but ZFM completely swinging on the bottom side of the map.
Yep. Now Rangelis is looking to try and take down this outer turret. It's going to be a nice injection of gold there as Isurus do still have an advantage. Just sidesteps out of that grand entrance there as Oddie's made his way down here. 3 versus 3 is prepared. And Steel's looking to try and take down this ward. They do so comfortably.
All junglers in the area, but the big thing is cleanse down from Utapon. Maybe another minute on the cooldown-ish, but that is what made the turnaround happen, right? Slow land at the CC, but Zaya Rakan.
All right, we're going to find the barrel. Bugax makes his way in, nowhere near Meganar, and he's underneath the turret right now as Steel gets himself towards it. Oddie goes golden, now still very, very low, but the good sidestep on all those abilities. Evie flashing forward, and now the Kale has joined the